Welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting of Dubbo Regional Council. I advise that this meeting is being streamed live to the internet. All those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements, and upon joining these online meetings, you accept the condition that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as being retained in the archive of the recorded council meetings and standing committee meetings. I now open the May 2024 Ordinary Council meeting, the time being 5:30 p.m. Can I ask Councillor Etheridge to do a prayer, please?
O God, grant that by the knowledge of thy will, all we may resolve shall work together for good. We pray this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Can I have Councillor Burns do acknowledgement of country, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through the Mother Makatan Najan Maranyanjani Naramang Tabagawaradri Wilawaradri Mangawaradri. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. There's no leave of absence request, and I note that Councillor Wright is attending by our audio-visual link tonight. Next item is CCL 24111, conflicts of interest. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a 3 conflict of interest. So, two from Culture and Community Committee meeting, CCL 24/26 and CCC 24/28. I was part of the Oriscon committee member, but not any longer. So I'll declare as a non-pecuniary and less than significant. Next one is CCL 24/127, non-pecuniary less than significant. I live in a waterway Crescent Dubbo. However, this motion is only naming of the road, so there's no financial gain. So I'll be staying in the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. No further conflicts of interest, councillors? No, I'll move on to the next item, CCL 24/112. We've got a special treat tonight, and great to see so many people have gathered today, Ray, for celebration of your career. Ray Fardell celebrates a half century of service to local government tonight. He started his career back in 1974 with Dubbo Municipal Council, transitioned to Talbragar Shire Council, then to Dubbo City Council, and of course now to Dubbo Regional Council. Worked for 4 different organisations in the one job for 50 years, so well done, Ray. So your service to local government's highlighted through your dedicated commitment to his city and the region. Devotion to your job transcends the realm of just employment. It shows itself as a deeply ingrained passion that permeates your daily routine. You often ride your bike to work at 5:30 in the morning and tend to some truck maintenance and a coffee before starting your actual shift at 7 a.m. So I think a lot of people can learn from that sort of process. Testament to your unwavering commitment to his job that the word retirement is a dirty word in your vocabulary. Began work as part of the Whitland Government's Regional Economic Development Scheme, and you haven't looked back since. While you've seen a huge transformation in operations, from changes to the way machinery is upgraded and purchased to uniform regulations, support and comradeship within the organisation has remained absolute. So, John, you attribute your time with Dubbo Regional Council and the council before to the relationship you've fostered with your colleagues and the guidance being provided by superiors. So, John, all the best. I know you're not retiring, but all the best with your future employment with Dubbo Regional Council, and thank you and congratulations for 50 years of service.
Thank you very much.
Thank you and congratulations again. So the next item on the agenda is CCL 24/113, Public Forum. Great to see so many people that have come along tonight. Just want to run through a couple of the rules of Public Forum before we get started. The Public Forum process has got 30 minutes of time allocated. Each speaker is allocated 5 minutes, no more than 5 minutes. At 4 minutes 30, I'll do a very sophisticated bell, so you know you've got 30 seconds left. And then at the 5-minute mark, I'll ask you to stop. And that's the same for everyone, so that everyone gets exactly 5 minutes. You can stop before that if you like, obviously, but no more than 5 minutes. With a big crowd in here tonight, I will remind the crowd that there's to be no cheering or jeering or clapping. The idea is that this is a chance for anyone to come forward and present their views on whatever topic that might be relevant to them and obviously relevant to council. It's an extreme process, but the rules of meeting practice are at the point that if an act of disorder occurs, which I would occur if the people who do clap or cheer, the act of disorder results in people being ejected from the meeting, and those people's names are recorded in the minutes of the meeting as being ejected. Obviously, I don't want to do that. I just ask everyone to stay quiet and respectful. Councillors will be quiet and respectful while people are speaking, and I just ask the crowd to be quiet and respectful. You may agree with the speaker, you may not agree with the speaker, but this is a chance for people to put their views forward without having any views pushed on them or any other influences there. So we've got the rules there. If everyone's happy to talk on those rules, I've got 5 registered speakers, and then at the end of that time frame, we'll have time left for anyone else that wants to come forward in the time we've got allocated. So those 5 speakers have preference because they've registered to speak. So with all those rules in place, I'll ask Ms. Michelle Tompkins to come forward. And when you come forward, okay, so Michelle, you're staying sitting down there.
Yeah, I am.
When you come forward, I just ask you to state your name, which I've just said your name, Michelle, but just the topic you're speaking on, and I'll start my timer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm Michelle Tompkins, and I'm representing the Scabbing Flat Bridge Replacement Group. Scabbing Flat Bridge, located at Geary, has been under load restrictions since November of 2023. This has created significant concerns and issues for safety, logistics, and additional costs as heavy transport vehicles have to use alternate routes. We recognise that this is not Council's responsibility, that it is Transport for New South Wales, but we encourage, and I'm sure that this is happening, that every support is given by Council to Transport for New South Wales to get this bridge back to its full capacity as quickly as possible. The main reason we are here tonight is to reinforce our submission that has been provided to each councillor regarding the construction of a new bridge. Dubbo Regional Council has now received funding to replace all its timber bridges in the council area. 2 timber bridges remain over the Macquarie River, and they are the responsibility of Transport New South Wales. The Rawsonville Bridge, which is currently being replaced, and the Scabbing Flat Bridge, built in 1911, which cannot cater for current or future heavy vehicle transport requirements. Council's current road asset management plan indicates the replacement of this bridge is in the last year of its 10-year plan. This project needs to be reprioritised to commence in the 24-25 year. This bridge is a key piece of infrastructure for an area which is a high-producing food and fibre hub. Recently, an independent group was engaged to produce a report that was able to show the farm gate value in the Geary area was in excess of $100 million. Once that product is vertically integrated within the supply chain, the economic multiplier value of the product produced in the area that needs to transverse over Scabbing Flat Bridge is many hundreds of millions of dollars. The produce volume is significant. Even with the current bridge fully operational, it is not rated to carry B-double and other higher mass limit loads. Furthermore, large modern farm equipment and other wide loads cannot traverse across the bridge. We also recognise the current bridge is local heritage listed, and it is thought within the next 12 months that it will come under state listing as well. We are not proposing to pull down the existing bridge. So what we're seeking from the councillors tonight is to include in your 24-25 budget an amount of $50,000 and the same amount for the following 3 years to enable preliminary works to commence. The estimated preliminary costs that we have determined is approximately $350,000. So our suggested solution is the Scabbing Flat Bridge is repaired back to its full capacity as soon as possible, recognising that it is an interim solution for now and not a future transport solution. In parallel, the process of constructing a 2-lane bridge with a minimum B-double rating to accommodate today's freight and future freight demands to be commenced in 24-25. As a note, all bridges in the area that have been replaced or are in the process of being constructed are B double rated. We recognise that a significant amount of money will be required for this construction, as our estimate is between 25 to 30 million. We will work with Council to lobby state and federal governments to assist in identifying the best approach for securing grant money for the project. As an example, Rawsonville construction is being funded by Transport for New South Wales and upon completion handed over to Dubbo Regional Council. The Scabbing Flat Bridge to be retained as a pedestrian and a showpiece bridge to cater for heritage status. We see this as a team effort and have received significant support from businesses and residents in the area. We are committed to working hand in hand with Council to ensure that the desired result can be achieved. But it needs to start here. And that is why it is crucial that the Council support our Scabbing Flat Bridge replacement submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Tompkins. I didn't make it just under the 4 minutes 30, so thank you, very well done. Okay, thank you, Ms Tompkins. The next speaker I have registered is Mr John Cater. If you can come forward, please, Mr Cater. And again, Mr Cater, just for the record, state your name and then what your topic is, and I'll start your timer. Thank you.
Thank you. Topic being the possible sale or lease of the Dubbo sale yards. My name is John Cater. I am an urban ratepayer in Dubbo, and I'm a landholder in the Warren and Bogan Shires, representing both my own livestock business, Illawarra Ag, and as a director and co-owner of H.E. Cater and Son Labra Merino Stud. Our clients and other producers from outside the Dubbo Shire boundaries. I am here to add voice to the disbelief and bewilderment that Dubbo Regional Council are proposing to lease out or sell the Dubbo regional livestock markets. Personally, we bring stock in from Coolabah, Nyngan, Warren and Trangie areas, and in the process support and use businesses in Dubbo, paying for and taking home with us services and goods. During the drought period of February 2017 to March 2020, and from your expression of interest for the sale or lease of the regional livestock, this is the most profitable period of the Dubbo regional livestock market. We personally sold approximately 29,000 head of sheep, or 42% of our sheep sales for that time, and 830 head of cattle through the DRLM. This financial year we've sold 408 head, or 55% of our cattle sales through the DRLM, and we've sold 12,500 head, or 46% of our sheep sales through the regional livestock market. The issue at hand doesn't just impact the Dubbo regional livestock market. It has a huge knock-on effect to the broader Dubbo community. A regular tip to drop stock off in a truck for us could also see a visit to a steel or building supplier for fencing and fabrication materials. I have on multiple occasions parked at the sale yards and used my agent's vehicle to complete other personal and business transactions in such categories as vehicle or motorbike purchases, animal health, furniture, computers, electrical goods, insurance, accounting, hairdressing, vehicle repairs, machinery dealers, and the list goes on. The most expensive trips usually occur when my wife accompanies me on a sale day. On these days, we're likely to spend somewhere in the vicinity of 1,000 to 5,000, just at Bunnings, Mitre 10 and Magnolia nursery departments. So I can complete the never-ending Mr. Fix-It jobs and get some gardening essentials. A restaurant for lunch, a beautician for Amanda to get her nails done, and yes, she can mark calves and lambs with nice nails. And the grocery store to stock up, shopping in bulk, as all farmers do when we're in town. On your own DRC website, you quote, "A key responsibility of all councillors is to represent the collective interest of residents, taxpayers and the local community by facilitating communication between community and the governing body." I feel in both communication and representation in this matter, we've been let down. I note from your annual statement of revenue policy that rural rates alone bring an estimate yield of over $7 million, or around 16% of your rateable income. Businesses in the Dubbo area provide over $10 million, or 24% of the rateable income. This is a combined roughly 36% of your rateable income. In your budget paper, it shows that you expect the Dubbo regional livestock market to make a profit in the vicinity of $500,000 per annum for the next 3 financial years, whilst the regional theatre and cultural centre, for instance, alone will operate at a loss, costing council over $5 million. for the next 3 financial years. All this before depreciation. As you point out, the above, in the Have Your Say question and answer thing on the DRLM website, on the Dubbo Regional Council website, the DRLM operates at a loss after depreciation. I'll also add that this is an operating profit, and it's before seeking grant funding, which seems to be preferred revenue stream for operations. In most businesses, depreciation is a tax deduction. The majority of your stated objectives in your expression of interest for the sale or lease of the Dubbo Regional Livestock Market are currently being met. It is already a viable and commercial concern. The DRC, as the operators, can ensure the long-term operation as a livestock sale yard. Your continued operation will best serve the Dubbo community and economy, and to ensure the long-term sustainability and viability for the benefit of all stakeholders. And your last objective, operate as a financially self-sufficient commercial asset whilst maintaining compliance with legislation and animal welfare requirements, as it currently does. For someone to lease and purchase a DRLM, they would only do so to make a large profit. It is therefore likely that selling costs to producers such as myself will undoubtedly increase. In such a scenario, as a livestock producer, where it becomes cheaper and more cost effective to sell my livestock somewhere else, such as the Forbes livestock market, run by Forbes Council, I will without hesitation support the businesses in their towns instead of Dubbo. I believe it is imperative that a full cost analysis...
Mr. Cater, thank you. 5 minutes is up. That's the time finished. Thank you very much. Okay, retire. No, Mr. Cater. Mr. Cater, stop, please. That's it. You're retired to your seat. I gave the rules very clearly at the beginning. Thank you. Okay. The next speaker I have registered is Mr. Andrew Martell. Once again, unlike Mr. Cater, Mr. Martell, you'll have 5 minutes to speak, 4 minutes 30. I'll give a bell, which I did then, and 5 minutes I'll ask you to stop. Thank you.
I'm here to speak, Andrew Martell, to speak about the livestock sale, yard sale, potential sale. I'm the Secretary of the Wellington branch of the New South Wales Farmers Association. And in doing so, I'd fully support the words of the 2 speakers that spoke at the Wellington meeting, Ray Tickle and Martin Simons, and their words of that. I must admit I'm most concerned about the lack of consultation with the parties concerned with this sale. You haven't spoken to the farmers, stock agents, your own sale yard committee or livestock transporters. I think consultation is a part of governance and this has not been done. The sale. The unanswered question is why. Mr. Cater gave many of good reasons for why it should not be sold then, and mine are fairly similar. From figures we have heard, but not confirmed by your lack of consultation, is that you take an annual dividend of $400,000 a year from the sale yards, and you have accumulated profits of $23 million in a restricted account. Some say this account is down to $3.3 million, with no explanation of where that money's been spent. This is also a lack of evidence of a lack of open governance. We, the ratepayers, need to know what is happening in this regard. I understand the sale would give the council a one-off sugar hit to help balance their budget. We would argue that a regular income is far better in the long term for ratepayers than trying to make up extra income annually from that which you will lose from the loss of a regular dividend. It's governments of all levels' responsibility to supply the service and infrastructure for the community and business to operate and grow. The council sale yard is both infrastructure and a service to agriculture. Agriculture is the industry that has allowed Dubbo to exist and enabled the growth of the city to service it, from which all the secondary and tertiary industries have grown. It is a great multiplier of the business. The better the conditions are for agriculture, the better will Dubbo thrive. Council sale yards are an example of this. Farming is a very resilient business. During COVID lockdowns, farming, as you know, was considered an essential business, which included livestock sales through the council sale yards. The sale yards bring much business to Dubbo, to the town, from an extensive area right across eastern Australia. Now, we know some sale yards are privately owned. Regional Livestock Exchange owns 8 of them. The cost of selling at these privately owned facilities is from 50 to 100% more expensive than at the council yards. This isn't just the yard charges, it's also all the extra costs that included in that. And if you add them all up, it's a far more expensive exercise. This extra cost could take business from Dubbo to Gunnedah, Forbes, direct sales or online, and that will be Dubbo's loss. The increased cost will most certainly impact farm inputs. Palisade Investments, the owner of Regional Livestock Exchange, openly state that they invest in monopoly or near monopoly infrastructure with the ability to earn a high return. I have no doubt that they and the others contemplating buying it have a similar motive. But this sounds like a business that's best left with us to retain the profits within Dubbo. Any ownership does definitely mean the profits will leave Dubbo, thus leaving the city, the council and the ratepayer communities poorer. A private owner has the ability over time to change the purpose of the site and close the sale yards down and use the site for a different purpose. This has happened and is shown by the recent closure of the privately owned Pakenham sale yards in the West Gippsland of Victoria, causing a lot of angst to the livestock producers in that region. If council chooses the sale option for the sugar hit to balance their budget, I ask what is the next on their list? Will it be the airport so that we can all enjoy higher airfares? In conclusion, I ask all councillors to seriously consider the long-term impact of selling the Dubbo Regional Council sale yards. We firmly believe that over the long term, the interest of not only the farmers, but the community is best served by the council ownership with an experienced sale yard manager. I've been told quite often that the management of the yards is half the problem because people they've been employed, have no interest in livestock
Thank you,
or sale
Mr.
yard
Martell. And I'll just remind speakers that there's not to be defamation of staff. Making insults of staff is not appropriate, but your 5 minutes is up anyway. Thank you, Mr. Martell. No, well, it sounded like a personal attack on a staff member, so not appropriate. Thank you, Mr. Martell. So the next speaker I've got registered is Mr. Peter Carter. Mr. Carter, if you'd like to come forward, please. Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Peter Carter. I'm Chairman of the Wellington branch of New South Wales Farmers, and I farm at Wellington. First of all, I'd like to thank the Council for the opportunity to come and address them on this issue. That's the end of the nice ones. Now, what I'm concerned about is the proposal to sell the yards or to lease them. I cannot understand how Council thinks they can sell the yards. If you think back, they're not really yours to sell. The yards were put together by the Talbragar Shire, and the councillors then must have scraped up the money to start and gone to the government for the rest of it. And then when the forced amalgamation came, you inherited them. I'm definitely against selling it. I think and I'm not going to repeat all the things that have been said. I agree with Mr. Cater's thing. I mean, I could do exactly the same thing. I've sent animals to Forbes and I could go there and shop. And it is going to affect, if something like that happens and the fees go up and people move, it is going to affect Dubbo. But I want to appeal to your sense of morality about this. I just think it's wrong. The second thing that you were angling towards was leasing it. Now, that is by far the better option, but I disagree with it. Because in both cases, when a company is running the sale yards, the yards are in pretty good nick now due to big influx of government money. But they're not going to stay that way. You've got old cattle yards and you've got old sheep yards, which are sooner or later going to need to be refurbished. And there is no way that the operator can feasibly pay for that without having extraordinarily high fees to pay for it. It's not going to happen. It's going to happen with government money. Now, the ability to attract government money decreases logarithmically when you take it away from a community-based organisation like the council. Private companies are sitting there making money. A lot of it goes overseas. The government's not going to be even vaguely interested in giving the money. I'm not saying you won't get it, but it'll be much less and certainly much harder to get. Andrew Martell raised the issue about what next, and I sort of wonder about this. I mean, if you manage to be able to sell the yards, what's next on the thing? Is it the showgrounds? Is it the racetrack? You know, I mean, take a very brave council to do that sort of thing. But I mean, this is the first step, and I'm very concerned about it. Anyway, I don't want to repeat what everybody else has said, so I think I'll just call it a day there, and that'll save you having to put me out.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. So the next speaker we have registered is Mr. Robert Shanks. Mr. Shanks, if you'd like to come forward, please. Thank you.
As the Mayor has already mentioned, my name's Robert Shanks. I'm a fourth generation farmer and represent on the Sale Yards Committee, Sale Yards Advisory Committee. I've been representing the producers on that committee for in excess of 20 years. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of those producers, who incidentally provide council with over 90% of the income they receive via yard dues and licence fees. The licence fees are indirectly paid by the agents. They're paid by the agents, and they sort from the sale of the livestock from the producers. A little bit of history. The regional sale yards were acquired, as you've already been told, by amalgamation with the Talbragar Shire 40 odd years ago at absolutely no cost to the Dubbo Council, and are now listed as an asset on their books of $37.5 million. And they contribute on average $3.5 million annually to council, enabling council to have accumulated assets of $22.14 million. These are all figures from their own books, which I am informed is made up of $3.5 million in cash. The balance of the total of the $22 million is made up from the annual dividends that have been taken from the sale yards over the period of 30 odd years that I know of, and there are some grant funds in that $22 million. As producers, one of our major concerns is the lack of transparency in council's accounts, which creates the us and them atmosphere which exists between the sale yard users and the council. And one shining example of that is there is absolutely no way I can find in their bookwork where they've taken those dividends, but I've been assured by senior staff members that that is the case. I won't bore you with a lot of the other stuff that's been mentioned. We've all been spending a lot of money in the town when we bring livestock to the yards. This is addressed to the councillors mainly over the next month. You will make your decision on the expression of interest options, and I urge you to consider these points. Dubbo is the #1 sale yards in Australia for dual species stock. It is centrally located for transport to and from the facility, and everyone's aware it's in the hub of the state. It is adjacent to one of the biggest throughput abattoirs in Australia. Sale yards users provide $1.5 million weekly to the Dubbo retail businesses, as Mr. Cate has already mentioned. It also provides council with $3.5 million in income annually, creates employment for in excess of 300 persons. And you as councillors represent the ratepayers and the livestock producers of 1/3 of the state of New South Wales. And all that is needed to make this a successful business is a commitment from the council and a management team that can and will run this facility viably. Why would the ratepayers or the council want to sell such a productive asset? And the last little bit, I doubt that many of the current councillors sitting here today would be in their chairs if they had campaigned in their last election campaign for the local government that they were going to consider selling ratepayers' assets. I'll leave a little bit of time for someone else. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Shanks. By our meeting protocol, we still have several minutes left in our public forum time. So if there's anyone else who would like to come forward, invite you to the microphone now, and all I'll ask you to do is, no, Mr. Cater, sorry. So everyone only gets the one go. So if anyone would like to come forward, you've got the opportunity. All I ask you to do is come forward, state your name for the record, and then what you're speaking on, and you've got 5 minutes as well. Thank
It
you.
won't take that long today, Mr Mayor. Thank you very much. Martin Simmons, I'm the President of the Dubbo Stock and Station Agents Association. I'd just like to firstly mention to the councillors, leading into the workshop on the 6th of June, where the councillors will be presented with the outcome of the EOI process, I'd like you to consider one thing. If an entity comes forward with a large purchase price for the Dubbo regional livestock markets, which they will, I want you to think about one thing. Why? Why would someone be willing to outlay such a large sum of money to purchase a council asset which has supposedly been costing council money over the last 4 years? Rather than jump at the dollars, I would ask you to seriously consider the real potential of the Dubbo regional livestock markets. Secondly, when I addressed the council meeting in Wellington last month, I stated that 9 councillors voted to move a motion to pursue an expression of interest to lease or sell the DRLM. What I didn't acknowledge at the time, that there was 2 councillors at the meeting that in fact voted against the motion, that being Councillor Black and Councillor Cowdery. Thank you very much, and we'll see you all again in June.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. So again, as per our meeting protocol, I've still got time left in public forum. If there's anyone else who'd like to come forward, and again, come forward, state your name and your topic, and you've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Brian Tink, I only got a short bit to say. You're saying this, what's next after the sale yards? What was first? The abattoirs. And Fletcher proved he didn't need an abattoirs in Dubbo, hasn't he? So I'd like to see the sale yards stay on as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tink. Once again, we've still got time left in public forum. If there's anyone else who'd like to come forward to the microphone, you can come forward, yes. And again, state your name, what you'd like to speak of, and you've got your 5 minutes.
So I'm Greg Kilby. I've been about a bit, seen a lot, and I thought these speakers here today were very on the job, right on the job. I would like to see the sale yards become a share company and the investors in it be Dubbo local people within 200 or 300 kilometres or 500 kilometres of Dubbo, so that you have directors running the show. Dubbo is feeding 140,000 people clothing and food, doctors and their accountants, solicitors, agents. If a private company, it's owning quite a few of the sale yards now, they will shift the sale of the cattle to their centres. They may even pull the sale yards down and build houses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kilby. And we've still got a few minutes left of public forum time. If there's anyone else who'd like to come forward and speak at public forum, then you're more than welcome. It doesn't have to be about the sale yards. It can be about any topic related to council. No more speaker. Okay, one more speaker. Mr. Todd.
My name is Gary Todd. I'm on one of the executives of the Livestock and Bulk Carriers. We had a forum last night on our internet, and the Livestock and Bulk Carriers and all the carriers that cart stock into Dubbo here want the sale yards to stay as they are. And they are back all the farmers with the national farmers. They will back the national farmers and all the agents as well. That's my say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. So we've still got time left. Does anyone else would like to participate and come forward? Again, you know the rules by now. State your name and what you want to speak about. Thank you.
Yeah, my name's Frank Hayes. I'll talk about the sale yards. I am an ex-employee of the council. I worked at the sale yards for approximately 12 months. And what a great facility it is. And I don't know why the council want to do away with it. It is a great facility. It works well, and it just needs a good management team. And that's all I can say. It's a great facility, so keep it.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. We've still got a few minutes left. If anyone else would like to come forward and speak. No? Okay, thank you. That brings us to end of public forum. Now, you can stay for the whole meeting if you like, but I will adjourn for 2 minutes just in case you want to leave to save disrupting the meeting. But again, I'm not kicking you out. You're more than welcome to stay for the whole meeting. It's very exciting and interesting watching a council meeting, but I will just adjourn for 2 minutes so that you can move out if you wish to move out. Thank you for your attendance. Okay, thank you to those who want to remain for the rest of the meeting. Actually, we still need Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Chowdhury's just ducked to the toilet. I'll just wait a moment for Councillor Chowdhury to come back. And I'll just ask, I'll just duck down the back there and you want me to duck down the back? Just. What are we doing? Okay, thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. So I'll resume the meeting now. The next item on the agenda is CCL 24/114, confirmation of minutes. Can someone move that way, please? Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Seconded by Councillor Burns. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/115, a mayoral minute in my name, so I'll move that way. And I'll just give a quick overview of that first before any discussion or debate. This is in relation to trying to get some consistency out of renewable energy voluntary planning agreements. And I had a discussion with the president of the Australian Local Government Association with a desire for the association to help with the lobbying, not just on behalf of Dubbo, but on behalf of the many of the 537 councils that are involved with renewable energy projects. That discussion was quite fruitful, and the request from the president was for Dubbo Regional Council to submit a motion to the National General Assembly. Unfortunately, the motion timeframe had already closed, so the president gave me permission to submit a late motion, which I did after sending around an email to councillors to give them information and get some feedback about that motion. So I've formally submitted that motion, but I wanted to bring it to council for two reasons. One, to get that endorsed by councillors, but also just to let the public know what the motion is, which I've got the motion there as part of the report, and just to let them know the process in terms of what we're trying to do, trying to get the Australian government to be involved in that, even though it's a state government planning process. The view from my perspective, and hopefully from this council, is that if there was a guideline that set some sort of standard across the nation, then all states would be able to come into that guideline in some way, shape or form, so there was consistency across that. So I move that way. Any discussion or debate, councillors? No, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. The next item, another mayoral minute, I'll move that as well. And this is in relation to the funding announcement, very exciting last week, in relation to the Wiradjuri Cultural Tourism Centre. Many people are already aware of this, that we received 7.190505 from the federal government. That was announced last week, the Growing Regions program. There was some media around that last week. We had Senator Deb O'Neill in Dubbo to make some of that announcement and talk about some of those great outcomes. We had a small event on the site itself. That adds to the $5.6 million we've already received from the state government. So that $15 million project will only require a $2.2 million injection. If you remember, when we resolved this back in December last year, it was unanimously resolved by council to go ahead with that funding model with the $2.2 million. But the CEO did say at that time, if we were successful with that grant, there'd be a chance, one more chance for council to say yes or no. That's this chance at the moment. It's only come through as a mayoral minute because we received such late notification that we received the federal grant money. So that's now, again, I've moved that. So that's up for discussion or debate, councillors, in relation to that. Any discussion or debate? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just wanted to endorse that supporting this go forward, but also wanted to say that it was, for me, it's a sort of the end of a whole saga, but also the beginning of a new saga for us out here. And the opportunity what the Wiradjuri Cultural Tourism Centre will do for Dubbo, not just Dubbo, not just the region, not just the state, not just the nation, but internationally. This Wiradjuri Cultural Tourism Centre, I hope, will bring people from international to Dubbo and be able to leave here thinking what an awesome cultural experience they had. So that's why I'm happy to back it, but also really interested in the statistics that Senator Deb O'Neill spoke about when she was talking about when we were handing over the information. She talked about there was hundreds of applications for the Growing Regions Fund, and there were only 40 that were successful, and we were one of 40. And that the fund that we got here in Dubbo is one of the biggest funds that have ever been, that has been for the electorate of Park. So there's a whole lot to celebrate there, not just to have the centre and what it's actually going to do going forward. So just wanted to share, I think, those positive thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Further discussion or debate? Councillor Black.
Yes, thank you. I echo those comments of Councillor Wells. It's a great project, and it was great to see Senator Deb O'Neill in Dubbo to announce that, and well done to the staff who put that project together. And it's great that we can get that sort of funding. But I've said it before and I'll say it again, I'll take this opportunity again. I think that we really do need to be honest with the community in that it's going to cost ratepayers $2.2 million funded from an internal loan and $600,000 in foregone interest there or thereabouts, so 2.8, nearly $3 million, when we could have had this facility for zero cost to ratepayers. It's no knock on the facility at all, the tourism centre. Anyone who tries to make that out is just telling porky pies. What we do need to do, though, is say that, yeah, we could have had it for $0, but we're not going to. It's going to cost ratepayers nearly $3 million in the end. And it's fine for the mayor to run around and say, oh, we're getting a $15 million facility for $2.2 million, and yeah, that's great. But that's not the whole truth. That's only half the truth. And a half-truth is an untruth. And it should be said that we had the option of going with the 9010 application, which would have been a $0 cost to ratepayers, but we haven't. So if you're going to say that if the ratepayers are going to be told that, oh yeah, $2.2 million for a $15 million facility, I think that the mayor and his mayoral bits and pieces in the media, he's the spokesperson for council, as he's very fond of saying, often really does need to tell the whole truth in that ratepayers are paying best part of $3 million when we could have had it for $0. Now, I was looking back at the alternate motion to change from the 9010 application to the 50/50 application, and it really probably should have said in hindsight that we stick with the 9010, but we expand out from the LAUC, the Local Aboriginal Land Council, to include other Aboriginal corporations so that no one felt that they were being left out. And we could have got the 90-10 funding and save ratepayers nearly $3 million, because spending $3 million when we could have had it for zero, other projects have had to be dropped from what we can do going forward. And that's just if you don't get something for nothing. It's not a magic pudding. 2.2 million plus 600,000 or thereabouts in foregone interest has to be covered or recovered from other projects. So I did hear the Mayor recently say that in regards, or a couple of months ago, in regards to my March motion, that we withdraw from round one and reapply for round 2 with the 90-10 application. And that's still the way I'd like to see the council go, because given that if we went for round 2 with the 90-10, it'd be an even stronger application, because we'd be partnering with an Aboriginal corporation. And I see no reason, if we've been successful with round 1, why when we're partnered with an Aboriginal corporation would we not be successful in round 2 and save ratepayers nearly $3 million and still get the same facility. And the media release the other day said that the round 2 will open in 2024. So if people want to talk about reputational damage of council withdrawing from a grant application to then reapply to save $3 million, there was a fair bit of reputational damage done the other day when I saw the Mayor in a photo with Mark Colton, a federal member, announcing this. A member that who is in opposition had nothing to do with this grant fund or allocating that money or anything at all to do with it, to then assist a member of the opposition to jump all over that. There's a fair bit of reputational damage done with that little stunt. I'll give everyone the tip. Considering that we want to work with the federal government and have a good reputation into the future, I'd suggest that doing that sort of thing probably is not the way to go into the future, and it's very, very unfortunate that that occurred this time. And I saw it on the Mayor's Facebook page and also the Council's Facebook page. I'm not sure who thought that was a great idea. But having said all that, then I will vote against this, because I think that we would be better served by going for round 2 to save $3 million to ratepayers. And like I said, it would be a stronger application because we'd be partnering with an Aboriginal corporation to deliver it. And the Mayor talked about, I saw one of his columns the other day and it was headed up about council's financial sustainability. Well, we're spending $3 million here that we didn't have to. That's not a great way to ensure financial sustainability. But if we can get the scar trees there and people have to pay a premium to go in and see those, then there is a chance that it could pay its way and help to cover some of that nearly $3 million of ratepayer money that probably didn't have to be spent in the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Back. Further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Burns, then Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say that got a little bit excited when I heard the funding came through, and I think it's a good thing for the Aboriginal community, especially because, for a lot of obvious reasons, but somewhere for the Aboriginal community to have an outlet to sell products that they might have or make. But not only that, it's a good place to share knowledge and learn. It's going to be a great centre, and the best thing about it, it's in an easily accessible area. I'm just excited to see it. Can't wait to see it off the ground.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just make a comment. What a great outcome came to our region, and as I will echo with the Councillor Wells, this masterpiece will be not for only our region. It will be for attraction for international tourists too. And I think we all need to be proud. And as Councillor Black said, there will be another round. He'd like to go, but I think this project has been, this community has been waiting since 2018, and 6 years gone, and then still they're waiting, and now finally we're coming in a conclusion. And I'll be support to go ahead with this current motion, because we need to develop something, and like if we go different, we cancel this one and then go on to the next round, I think then project cost will be go up, and then that project will be under threat. That's why we could not deliver within last 6 years. So I will be go ahead with this current motion, and also I think Mr. Mayor and that current opposition party, our member for federal took a picture. I think they done a fantastic job, because the this project came funded by previous coalition government too. So I think as a member for parks should be included in this project and should be show his support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey, and then I've got Councillor Wright after Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, look, I support the motion. I think it's terrific. I hear what Councillor Black is saying, but gee, I think in business the bird in the hand is always better than the bird that may get away. We've got an opportunity here of getting a substantial amount of money for a very worthwhile project, and to say thanks very much, no, we're not going to accept that, we're going to see whether we can just go that little bit extra and get which may be a better deal. I think if you multiply that extra benefit by the risk of losing it, I think you'd come back to say no, accept the project that you've got now. The other thing I'd just say to in relation to what Councillor Black said is that it's not really a correct accounting to say that the cost to the council is $3 million, because that includes $600,000 on his calculation of income generated. The cost to the council is the money that it spends. That full stop. It's not the opportunity cost. When we go and build a road and say that's going to be $5 million, it's not $5 million plus what we might get if we didn't build the road. The cost of building the road is $5 million. So the cost of the council for this project is what we contribute, not the opportunity cost as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a bit of clarity with respect to that $4.999 million from New South Wales, Create New South Wales, their grant. Can you just remind me again, is there an expiry date on that portion of the grant money?
Happy to go through Mr. CEO to Mr. CEO.
Yep, I haven't got it in front of me at the moment, but my recollection is December 26. 25? Yeah, can I take it on notice? I'll have a quick scan if councillors wish. But I did say this when the officer from Senators rang just before it was put up on the website the other day, that it was getting close to crunch time, that we needed to find out in order for us to spend the Create New South Wales money by the deadline. So the timing was very good in that regard, because we were certainly down to weeks and it was going to start being undeliverable against the New South Wales contribution to the project. So it was starting to get very tight. June 2026, Create New South Wales funding.
So, Councillor Wright, that clarifies that. So June 2026 is what Ms. Coomer said in terms of when the Create New South Wales funding would expire, or does expire still. So we've still got to hit that deadline from our perspective.
Sure, thank you. So just a further question then, would I be right in suggesting that if Councillor Black's suggestion to run with the 90-10 and maybe wait for a round two, that not only will we be handing back potentially nearly $7.2 million in money, but also foregoing nearly $5 million in additional funds as well, because we potentially wouldn't meet a deadline to be able to spend that money as well. Would that be correct?
I'm happy to give a little bit of speculation on that one and hand over the CEO for that. Obviously, you're relying, Councillor, right there on speculation about when round two may open, then when round two may close. The only time frame we have, as Councillor Black said, is 2024. Round two will open, but that could be July 2024, could be December 2024. But based on last year's, I would speculate that a decision will probably be made at some time early next year about round two. Again, that's pure speculation based on last year's. And from that perspective, if we were successful with 90-10, if it was the same sort of time frame as now, I think it would be impossible to be able to use that money in a way to use the 10% component from Create New South Wales. So I think we'd end up putting in the 10% from the way I would read the timelines there. Again, I have nothing absolute definite to go on. It's speculation based on what's happened in the past. Not sure if the CEO wants to add any further to that.
Yeah, so what you've articulated is risk. There's greater risk because there are so many unknowns. If you look at our experience, and this isn't a complaint by any means, but to get the money, as councils would know from the Hot Topics emails and what have you, has been a slow process and a delayed process. So the risk is that similarly, next rounds would be, there's uncertainty around when they'll be announced for opening, then there's uncertainty around the decision for distribution of the grants as well. So that would be an ever-growing risk the longer you take.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Anything further? I mean, you haven't entered the debate yet, Councillor Wright. Any further questions, or you can enter the debate?
Oh, look, I guess just some comments off that. You know, I know that I understand where Councillor Black's coming from there with respect to, you know, potentially looking at an alternative to save council some money. But I'll look on the other hand and think that, you know, quite potentially we're going to jeopardise nearly $12 million in funding from both state and federal government. And that's almost financially irresponsible to hand that back for an opportunity to fund this development. I understand Councillor Black made the comment there with respect to I can see no reason why we wouldn't be approved for that. Look, I guess the unfortunate part is Councillor Black's not writing the cheque. He doesn't know. None of us do. And that's a pretty competitive fund because there was 40 successful applicants, but I think well over 100 applicants in there. So there is no guarantee that we will be successful a second time. There is no guarantee that we'd potentially get 90%. And we still don't have any guarantee that we would be able to find a suitable partner. And I know we only had a very small window to try and do that prior to that grant closing anyway at the time. The added cost, as Councillor Chowdhury said, you know, for us to wait potentially 12 months for another outcome of another round 2 grant, which I don't know, maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen any confirmation there's an absolute guarantee of round 2. But again, I'll be corrected if I'm wrong. But we waited 12 months for that. We maybe wait another 12 months. We add another 5 to 10% onto the cost, and all of a sudden, community's footing the bill potentially anyway for blowout in costs. So I'm happy to support this. The community's been waiting a long time for it, and I'd love to think that this cost to the community will be well and truly worth it in the long run.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any further? Councillor Mann.
Without repeating a lot that's already been said, I'd endorse it's a no-brainer to accept this grant that's been presented. It has been a long time in process. I think commercially, our opportunity cost, I'd turn it around the other way and say that the opportunity is going to come down the track when the building's actually up and running, and the investment that we have to make on behalf of the ratepayers at the moment will be well and truly validated down the track as a legacy for future generations. So I'd 100% accept this recommendation, support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Other Councillor Black, you have a question?
Just a question for you, Mr. Mayor, to the CEO. CEO said previously that the $5 million state grant money would be spent first as part of the build. Is that still the case?
Thank you, Councillor Black. To Mr. CEO.
We would structure the construction that way as a risk management tool because we inevitably have challenge in building infrastructure, and so with wet weather and what have you. So we'd be aiming to build a Create New South Wales and account for that as the first tranche of expenditure. There's still constraints about what you can spend it on within that grant, of course, but you would certainly be aiming to spend that money up front. There's still tight timelines on the federal government grant, although their letter that was telling us the advice said, we know the grant says you've got to start in May, but we've only told you in May, so we're not going to hold you that. So we haven't seen the deed yet, so that will be interesting, given they've taken an extra couple of months, how much they let us change and negotiate the outcome. So to your original question, yes, Create New South Wales has the tighter timeline at this point, so we try and spend that money first.
Thank you, CEO. Further questions, Councillor Black?
No, that answered it. Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions to debate, councillors? No? Okay. And again, I've said it before, but you know, the largest single federal grant this council has ever received, $7.2 million. And this will be the second largest capital community project behind the theatre that this community will ever build. So a pretty exciting project. And I echo the thoughts of most of the councillors, a bird in the hand. We have that money now. There is absolutely no guarantee that you could fund this for $0. You might lose the Create New South Wales money, 10% of a build that goes forward in a year's time, that goes up by another $1 million or $2, $16, $17 million. We provide 10% of that. We're up to $1.7 million, almost up to the 2.2. But what opportunity cost have we lost to the community? As Councillor Mann said, this being built a year earlier than going down a 90-10 path, that creates a huge amount of opportunities for people in the Dubbo community, Aboriginal people, Aboriginal businesses, but also our local economy. a huge range of advantages, so a very exciting project. So I'll put that, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Just check, Ms Rouse, you're right there? Yep, thank you. Okay, thank you, councillors. Next item is CCL 24/117, mayoral appointments and meetings. Have someone move that, please. Thank you, Councillor Etheridge, seconded by Councillor Wells. Any discussion or debate? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 24/118, investment under Section 625 of the Local Government Act. Have someone move that, please. Thank you, Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Mann. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Sorry, I'll pause on those a little bit, councillors, just because I've got someone remote, so I've just got to wait for the lag for Matt to, not for Matt to catch up, for the lag of Matt to catch up. The next item is CCL 24/119, report of the Infrastructure Planning Environment Committee meeting. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We'll move CCL 24/119, but save and accept IPC 24/29, which is the draft planning agreement from Dubbo Firming Power Station.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to the committee meeting?
No, I don't. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Any further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey, this is on the rest of the report, not on IPC 24/29. No. Okay, so any discussion or debate on the rest of the committee, councillors? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Councillor Wright, can you move IPC 24/29, please?
Certainly. Thank you, Mr Mayor. IPC 24/29 is moving the draft planning agreement for Dubbo Firming Power Station, please.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Have someone second that, please. Second to Councillor Black. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to that?
No, not at this stage, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Councillor Ivey.
Can I, I'd like to speak against it, and in speaking against it, foreshadow an alternative motion. Mr Mayor, do I speak to that now, or just at least flag that that's the situation?
No, so what I'd recommend you do then, speak, if you wish to speak against that, speak against that. Obviously, your desire would be to see it defeated, and then just explain what you would do if it was defeated, and obviously need to be a motion to replace that if it is defeated.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, look, I'd like to speak against the motion for the reason that I believe that the amendment, which was included in the original motion, that any monetary contribution from the planning agreement be spent within a 15-kilometre radius of the project, I think is not a reasonable position, and that I would like to have that removed in the final motion. In speaking to that, I would like to say that the 15-kilometre radius restriction, I think, goes against the spirit and the intention of what the community contribution funds that, in this case, Squadron Energy are willing to provide. It's going against the intent of that. Now, I know my colleague, Councillor Black, will say, well, it's consistent with other planning agreements whereby there is a restriction put on some of those community funds that are coming from the proponents, in Wellington particularly. And my response to that is to look, that restriction is because the renewable energy development around the Wellington area is having a negative impact on the community. There are people there, it's actually divided the community. There's quite a lot of people who are against the renewables. It has indeed had a tremendous impact on the local environment, both visual and disruption to some of the agricultural operations which are undertaken there. And that the community benefit funding, which is hopefully attached to those developments, is intended to provide the local community with some offsetting benefit. In the case of this firming plant, there is no negative impact on the local community. It's in an industrial area. It's the sort of thing which really is absolutely consistent with its the surrounding area. There's no impact, negative impact on the Dubbo community, and so to restrict the payment of that benefit to an area where there is no negative impact, I think just is inconsistent. Again, perhaps anticipating what I know Councillor Black's objection is, and other councillors may have the same objection, is that the large-scale battery development in Wellington, again, it doesn't have a big footprint, it doesn't have a big impact, but those battery developments are there because of the renewable development that's going on around it. It's because of the solar farm, the transmission lines that are there, and therefore it's fair, I believe, that any community benefit fund from those large-scale battery developments does have the benefit from those does get spent within a confined area. The other thing I think that with it is that really the Squadron have said in their planning agreement that they would like the funding to go towards a public art strategy, and it actually says in there, for the benefit of in their letter of offer, they say for the benefit of the council's area. It doesn't say the Dubbo area, it says the council's area. So why impose an artificial restriction on that? Yesterday there was, we had the Villages Committee meeting, representatives of Eucarina, Stewart Town Mumble, Yeovil, Ballymore, Elong. That's a fantastic committee. They really are an engaged committee. They're representing their own local areas, but very much part of the Dubbo region. They do absolutely acknowledge that they are part of the Dubbo Regional Council area, and they want to contribute to it. They want to get the benefit of the Dubbo Regional area, but they want to maintain their own entity. What sort of message would it send if we say a proponent of a renewable energy project has granted money to the whole Dubbo regional area, but this council has restricted it to just Dubbo? I would rather not tell that committee of that outcome. I think that would be a great pity. So I would like to see that the motion goes through, that the spending of the money is as put in the original motion, and that amendment of having 0.5, the 15 kilometre radius be removed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other speakers? Councillor Black.
Thank you. I'll move an amendment, and it'll be points 1, 2, 3 and 4 the same. Point 5 is the same, except we change 15 kilometre radius of the project to 35 kilometre radius, and we add point 6, which would be that future planning agreements do not have a geographical restriction on the use of the funds.
Okay, so I'm not going to accept the amendment with the radius because it's a contradiction of what's in the current resolution. So you'd have to do the same as Councillor Ivey, get this defeated and then replace it, because 15 kilometre, 20, 30, whatever distance we say, when we've already got a distance in there as part of the resolution, that's essentially a negative of that. So you've got to remove 15 to replace it with 20 as such. So the second part, no problems, but the first part, to change that distance, I'd recommend you suggest to your fellow councillors to defeat this, and then you'd bring in a different radius. That makes sense?
You're right. I can still stick with point 6 though.
Yeah, so point 6 is an amendment. I'll accept that amendment. And you can flag the first part to your fellow councillors to say that I'll change the radius if the current resolution is defeated.
Righto, let's do that. So point 6 would be that future planning agreements do not have a geographical restriction on the use of the funds, and I will foreshadow that if point 6 is successful, and then we put the whole motion, that I will change 15 kilometres to 35 kilometres after that. Thank you.
Rightio. Thank you, Councillor Black. So the amendment is that future planning agreements do not have a
Geographical restriction on the use of the funds.
okay. Thank you. Can I get a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Showery. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to your amendment?
Yeah, thank you. So my amendment 2 weeks ago came out of the last planning agreement that we did, which was the Forest Glen Solar Farm, where there was a geographical restriction on where the money could be spent. We've got a 10k and a 20k radius, and then later years we get to a 30-kilometre radius. But there's also a thing in there that, however, this does not include projects in the Dubbo urban area. That set a pretty unedifying precedent, I thought, which we probably shouldn't have allowed that, where Councillor Ivy's all for saying that we're all one LGA. Well, let's codify that and ratify that and say that we are all one LGA. We will put all the funds into one single pot and spend them where they are most needed throughout the whole LGA. So I'm not sure how... Oh, hang on, not the Forest Glen Solar Farm. I said the wrong one. The Forest Glen Solar Farm was the one down Manor Road. That we didn't... There was $1 million there. We didn't put... it was the Forest Vale Solar Farm. The Forest Glen Solar Farm, there was at the end of Manor Road, there was $1 million there where we didn't put any geographical restriction on that. So I'm happy for all of the planning agreement money to go into the one pot and truly treat us all like we're one LGA and spend it across the whole LGA wherever it's most needed. So that's why I moved the amendment the first time. That's to do with the 15Ks, which on reflection should have probably been 35 kilometres. But why I'm moving the amendment now, point 6, is that we would be better off not having any of these restrictions into the future, but what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and until we can come to some sort of agreement on we truly are all one LGA and treat us like that, it's only going to be a continuation of this with lots and lots of planning agreements coming into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. So further discussion or debate, councillors, just on the amendment. Councillor Showery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will support Councillor Black, the alternative motion, because I think we are all in one LGA. So we need to support treating everyone with same respect, and all the community need to be treated same merit. On the other hand, I think 30 plus renewable energy projects are oncoming to our region. So most of them will be Wellington. So Wellington community will get a lot of benefit, and when we giving we encouraging giving the community benefits to those Wellington community. Sometimes we receive a call from our Dubbo, a community in our Dubbo and they are very shocked why we are not including their a project, and so I think with this current motion, if there is no geographical a restriction, it will definitely benefit all the parties. And as I will highly respect to Councillor Ivy, I was on yesterday's village committee meeting, and I think every village need to be included. So even though the villages surrounding Dubbo, they should be included too. So through this boundary removal, then all these villages and all our community will be together, and we can celebrate, and we will see a future. All this beautiful mural would be in Wellington, will be in Dubbo. So I think Councillor Ivy will be also supporting this alternative motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Showery. Further discussion or debate, councillors, on the amendment? Councillor Ivy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll speak against the amendment. For the reason is, go back and look at why these community benefit funds were established, why the proponents under a voluntary planning agreement are willing to make money available. And they do it specifically to compensate or to offset the negative effects of the renewable development projects on the people in the immediate area. I mean, it's not just a Dubbo Regional Council thing. It's a state government thing that that communities that are affected by renewable energy development should have the right to receive some offsetting funding to provide for development and provide for projects in the area in which renewable projects have an effect. And to say, look, let's just put it all this at the pot and just affect the area, the whole Dubbo regional area, defeats the purpose of why we do have these voluntary planning agreements. They are there to help the communities that have been directly affected by this development. And it's a program that will work well under each of the planning agreements that says, okay, here is where the money will be spent, where progressively that gets spent on a wider area, and there's a clause in there that says, and if there are no particular projects of merit, then it will go into the larger pot. I mean, the actual program works fairly well. Why do we want to try to upset it? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Further discussion or debate, councillors? I have got a question to the CEO. I'm just intrigued. Obviously, they're voluntary planning agreements, and we've had some success, but not 100% success with proponents in the way we've approached them in the past. And they've obviously been adamant that they've been in certain areas. I'd be interested, Ms. CEO, do you think this would actually have a negative impact on our ability to negotiate with some of the proponents? Happy for you to contemplate that.
Yeah, look, I do have a view of it. In the first instance, I'll throw it to Mr. Jennings, who has been leading most of the negotiations, and his team with proponents, because it's still a negotiated outcome, VPOs with proponents, and they certainly prefer to be investing in more directly in the communities they impact, if there is an impact. But I'll throw to Mr. Jennings just for clarification. Who's up the back there near a microphone?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So, yeah, in our negotiations, especially, so I think the Spices Creek planning agreement with Squadron Energy.
Sorry.
No, all good. Yeah, there was definitely a strong focus from Squadron on having the funds from their planning agreement spent within that area of influence or area of some impact from their development. Most definitely, a lot of the discussions that we have with proponents, they do advise us that they would like to see their funds spent within a certain area around their development. For sure, in respect of the Forest Glen planning agreement, that doesn't have a distance requirement because it's got a slightly different focus where we looked at a community housing incentivisation scheme. But yeah, our evidence to date in a lot of our discussions that proponents are very keen to see their funds utilised within that area of impact of their development potentially.
Thank you, Mr. Jennings. Sorry, CEO?
And so just to clarify, we don't have a distance provision in our policy setting and the framework. So I guess that's to allow that negotiation room with proponents for the staff to have that flexibility to negotiate.
Thank you, Ms. CEO. Further discussion or debate, councillors, on the amendment? No. Councillor Wright, as the do you want to you can have a comment first, and you also have a right to reply, but you can have a comment if you want to introduce new material first.
I'll just make a comment. I think is fine, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. Apologies for that slight issue a few minutes ago. I probably agree with Councillor Black's comment there with respect to the community housing scheme for Forest Glen Solar. I too think that that particular project's in close to Dubbo, and the potential housing issues that might be caused as a result of that, probably Dubbo could have benefited from that. So certainly, noting that. I think the overall motion of that amendment, I'm not overly comfortable with that. I think I'd rather go into these negotiations with open flexibility, and as you say, these are voluntary voluntary, and there are times if you've got a proponent that doesn't want to put money where we would like to put it, then I think we just have to take it and negotiate it. I hate to walk away from some money just because we wanted it spent somewhere where they didn't. So, and in the absence of any state or federal government policies around these types of things, I think we just continue to do what we do. I think we're leading the way with respect to the negotiations. I'd love to see some more money spent in Dubbo, as would Councillor Black. So I'd probably vote against that particular amendment just for that reason, just to be able to go in with a bit of open negotiation.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Wright, and I'm similar. I think it's a hard enough job for us to get these agreements across the line anyway, because we don't have regulation on our side. So to put more impediments in place, I think just makes it even harder. So I certainly would vote against it as well. Now, Councillor Wright, as the mover of the original motion, you do have a right of reply, but keep in mind only to refute or bring up anything that's said in the debate. So you've got a right of reply if you wish to exercise that.
No, I'm fine. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so we have the amendment in front of us. Happy for you to read out your amendment again, Councillor Black, if you'd wish to. Right. So the amendment in front of us at the moment, all those in favour of the amendment? Against? Declare that lost. So now, just for the order of things, Councillor Black, we'll return back to the debate on the original motion as it stands. So there's still debate occurring on that, where I think Councillor Ivey was trying to get that defeated to then replace that. So we'll return to that debate now, which is just the debate on the normal motion, and then we'll deal with that one and then go forward with any other amendments and any other changes there. So at the moment, we've got back to the original motion, further discussion or debate, keeping in mind that so far Councillor Wright's moved that and Councillor Ivey has debated that at the moment, and Councillor Black hasn't debated. You've only just put an amendment forward. So any further discussion or debate on the original motion, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Just a question, probably asking on behalf of Councillor Black. He may have mentioned previously about maybe that one was defeated that we put forward. Does this one now need to be defeated again for him to re-raise that with a different radius, is my question.
Correct. So what I would do is the path forward, so debate the current motion that's in front of us now out of our business papers. If that's successful, that's fine, that's done and dusted, unless there's another amendment that would be allowed. If it's defeated, then that would satisfy Councillor Ivey, who then wants to come forward with points 1 to 4 only. He foreshadowed that first, so he would have first a chance to do that. And then, depending on what happens with that one, then Councillor Black, if wishes to change the radius, could then come forward with a different radius. So at the moment, for either of those two things to happen, then this current motion in front of us would need to be defeated. That answers that question, Councillor Wright? Right. Okay. So further discussion or debate, councillors, on the existing motion before us? Okay, so Councillor Wright, you have a right of reply. There's really only been what Councillor Ivey said in this debate, so a right of reply to anything that Councillor Ivey said.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so just for clarification, if you want to remove the 15-kilometre radius altogether, or you want to go with a larger radius, then vote against this motion for then it to be replaced with another motion that will then satisfy one or both of those requirements. So all those in favour of the current motion? Against? Declare that lost. Sorry, Councillor Ivey, had you against? Sorry, Councillor Wright, I had you against. There was just a slight lag there, yep. Right, so Councillor Ivey, if you then wanted to move points 1 to 4 without point 5, you can now do that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, that's what I would like to do. Move the motion now as written there, except deleting point 5.
Thank you. So moved. Can you have someone second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Burns. Now, and I'll get to Councillor Black in a moment. So, Councillor Ivey, I'll get you to speak to this in a moment. And at any point during this debate, then Councillor Black can bring forward his amendment, because now there's no radius sitting on this particular motion. So I'll get you to speak to your motion first, Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I won't repeat what I said earlier. I might just add a couple of points to it, though, that it is a fantastic opportunity now with this firming plant money Squadron Energy, I think, have given us it's a real free kick. It's a bonus. I think it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't fall within the normal voluntary planning agreement for a renewable project because of its lack of impact. But nonetheless, I think Squadron, who have demonstrated to this council a number of times that they really are a very good community citizen, would like this money to go towards a public art strategy. Now, again, I think that's, I did ask the question before, hang on, where did that come from? Not that I was against it, but I just wondered what the background to it was. And thinking about it, it is a fantastic idea. Squadron Energy are picking up something which, a public art strategy, which we've got. The council has developed a 10-year public art strategy. The only thing is we haven't got any money for it. We haven't got any money in the budget. And then suddenly along comes a proponent that says, up front, we will give you the money that you can put into your public art strategy. Now, that is something which, and as I say, in their letter of offer, they do say that money, they would like that money to be spent in the council's area. They don't say, you know, within 15 kilometres or 35 kilometres. They say, we would like that money spent in the council's area. Now, the council's area is obviously the LGA. And again, look, I'm sure that the greater minds than mine will think about what sort of money, what sort of allocation that money could be within a public art strategy. But can I just sort of off the top of my head say, wouldn't it be terrific if we as a council could give some money to all these little villages and towns in our area who, as I say, are very proud of their own identity, but do see themselves as part of this LGA, to have some sort of public art strategy, perhaps something at the entrance of their towns. It might be I don't know, it might be a sign, it might be a sculpture, it could be themed so that, yes, it's different, it's peculiar to these little villages and towns, but it's themed. So it could have an Indigenous theme, it could have an environmental theme, it could have a renewable energy theme. But wouldn't it be fantastic to take that money that Squadron have given us almost as a bonus and use it for something that says, here we are in this area, here's what we've done for a public art strategy, and look at the benefit we've got. We're actually unifying the area, and we're giving some pride to those little communities who are really, in some ways, the backbone to this larger LGA. And to say to them, sorry, no, we've made it 15 kilometres or 35 kilometres. Sorry, Eukarina, no, you don't get it. No, Mumble, you don't get it. Sorry, Yeovil, you don't get it. I mean, what sort of message is that giving? For what purpose? When we got this money for a benefit for the council's area, it's not, like I've said with the other VPAs, that really can be seen as some offsetting benefit to a negative. This is not an offsetting benefit to a negative. There is no negative. So why are we even thinking of trying to restrict it? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to echo Councillor Ivey's comments. This is the whole LGA. This is money to go to a public art strategy for the whole LGA. We're talking from Eukarina to Ulumundry to Eelong to North Yeovil. Wellington already feels like the poor cousin. Let's not create a bigger divide and take in the whole LGA with this money for a strategy that hasn't been funded yet.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Black.
Yes, thank you. I'll move an amendment, which will be point 5, that any monetary contribution from the planning agreement be spent within a 35-kilometre radius of the project.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Have someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to your amendment?
Yes, thank you. So basically this would cover most of the villages, Ballymore, Umundry, Geary, Wongarbin, or would it cover Geary? Can't remember. Yeah, it would. Yeah, it would. It does. Yeah. And basically, look, there's where we've heard about the other little villages that might miss out on this money, those being Eukarina, Stewarttown and Mumble. There's more than enough opportunity given this Spices Creek wind farm planning agreement where money could be shared from that does have a distance restriction on it with those villages there under the 30-kilometre radius. So it just mean a bit of sharing needed to be done with other money. So, like I said, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. They can still, those other little villages down the other side of Wellington can still have their art strategy funded, but from the money from the Spices Creek wind farm planning agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any discussion or debate, councillors, on the amendment? Councillor Showery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will echo it, Councillor Black. I feel like the nearest villages in Dabo feel like a poor cousin. So with this 35 kilometer will be like a cater for the villages around Dabo will be will get benefits because the other villages near Wellington will a lot of renewable energy is coming, projects are coming, so they will definitely get their money. But the thing is, they have a those radius, kilometer radius restriction. So these villages will Giri will never get money because if there's a restriction of kilometer from Wellington. So I will absolutely support Councillor Black that 35 kilometer. So that way these villages can get and Dabo area can get this art and craft in our area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Showery. Councillor Wright.
Just a question, maybe, Mr. Mayor. I'm just reading the offer from Squadron Energy on the 11th of April, which they put to council, which stated that the contributions to be allocated towards works identified in the council's public art strategy 22-23 and other public purposes for the benefit of the community of the council's area. I guess my question is, if we were to put a restriction on this, would we need to go back to the drawing board to a point and just renegotiate that with Squadron on the basis of that?
Funnily enough, I was just saying to the CEO, the Squadron Energy, are they going to accept this? And so I've forewarned the CEO now about the question. So thank you for the question, Councillor Wright. Mr. CEO, what do you think?
Short answer, yes. We'd have to go back and see if that's acceptable. It is a voluntary planning agreement, so we'd have to negotiate this additional requirement of council, and we have no insight into whether they'd like that or not because we haven't had that in the discussion to date.
Thank you, CEO. Does that answer that question, Councillor Wright?
Yeah, it does, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. And then just a comment. Look, having been involved in the Spark Committee for the last for this term of council, and having a little bit of insight into the public art strategy, it is a whole of LGA document, and that's where I have a bit of an issue with Councillor Black's amendment. I'm love to see all Swans. Probably not quite as passionate as Councillor Ivey, but certainly I still want to leave it open, and I think there's still an opportunity for council to appoint, maybe dictate where public art goes as part of that public art strategy over time. But it is a whole of LGA document, and it's really hard just to pull apart that and state that the money will be spent specifically in Dubbo. But they're probably the couple of issues I have around it at the time for the time being. So,
thank you, Councillor Wright. Further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey, so you can, this is on the amendment, so you haven't entered the debate yet, so you can enter the debate on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, look, I'd like to speak against the amendment for the reasons that's been touched on here. Squadron are a very professional company. I don't think they wrote this letter without really considering exactly what it meant. They're saying that they will give the money as a community benefit fund. They would like it to go to a public art strategy. I don't think that was just sort of plucked out of the air. They thought that that was a very worthwhile spending of the money, of their money, which they are giving to council. They are saying that we would like, we recommend, we suggest, we require, might be a bit strong, that money be spent on the public art strategy in the council's area. I mean, it's not, they didn't put that word in there or that phrase in there by accident. That's what they meant. That's what they meant. So who are we to come back and say, look, no, we're going to change that. We're going to, we think we know better. We think we should restrict it to a particular area. I mean, talk about, acting to the detriment of good relations. It's just not a good idea to do that. And as I say again, really, their foresight in saying that we want it spent on a public art strategy across the whole LGA. And if we get that right, I think it could have a fantastic benefit to the whole LGA, and particularly from Squadron's point of view, in getting the whole LGA a little bit more on board with renewables. Because I can promise you, the whole LGA is not all on board with renewables. There's a lot of angst out there, and we really have to work very hard at trying to overcome that angst. And saying to some small villagers who are really passionate about their village, sorry you missed out on this, I just think it would be so negative for this council to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Further discussion, order, Councillor Mann.
Thank you. Look, I think I'm a bit torn on this one. I just believe, some of the stuff that Councillor Black said is 100% right, that we can't, in one instance, say, no, this is only going to be spent here, and then on the next one, it's got to be spent through the whole LGA. And I take on board Councillor Ivey's point around the local effect, but one of the points you made was about agricultural disruption, etc. But that's really what they got paid for. That's what they've committed their land to. So I'd pull that one back out. But it might be their neighbours are probably more concerned because they didn't get the funding. But I won't support this amendment on this occasion. But I think the point that Councillor Black tried to make earlier about that we shouldn't be locking ourselves in on some of those agreements. I think probably from a staff point of view, when they're in that seat, is to maybe take a bigger view on that. If Squadron's determined that it's going to be spent in the Dubbo region, well, that's their money. If the other people determine it's going to be spent somewhere else, but I think in general we should be trying to put it into the whole LGA, because we can't have the haves and the have-nots. I don't think so. I will vote against this amendment, but I don't think we've solved the conundrum.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Black, a question?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So we've heard Councillor Ivey say about the planning agreement, the funds to be spent within the council area. Through you to someone who would know, that just means not outside the council area. Is that correct? There's no prescription of where in the council area, just not outside of it?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Further discussion or debate, councillors? So, Councillor Ivey, is the move of the original motion. You have a right of reply only to things that were said in the debate on the amendment.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have the amendment before us now, which essentially is the same as the old 5, but with 35-kilometre radius now instead of 15-kilometre radius. So, all those in favour of the amendment? Against? Declare that lost. Okay, so we're now back to the original motion, which is the one that Councillor Ivey moved, which is now points 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can continue the debate on that at the moment. Only Councillor Ivey spoken to that motion and Councillor Goff has spoken in the debate on that. So further discussion or debate on that, or any other amendments might want to come forward now, councillors. So no further, Councillor Black. And then Councillor Wright, sorry.
Thank you. The staff have done a good job getting the money for this. We've pretty much said before that if we are really going to be one LGA, then we just need to, all these sort of things need to be throughout the whole LGA, not restricted. A gas-fired power station, I don't see how that is in any way relates to renewable energy at all when you're burning a fossil fuel, and promoting goodwill for renewables whatsoever. And look, poor Cousins, let's get an audit into where all the spending's been over the last 7 to 8 years. But it'll be good to see that money go into the public art strategy. But we really do need to, if we're going to be one LGA going forward, stop the nonsense of restricting huge amounts of money just to certain areas within the LGA. And like Councillor Mann said, look, you don't hear any whinging from people who are getting $35,000 per year from a wind turbine on their place, or people who have sold for big money to a solar farm or are leasing to a solar farm. It's only the neighbours that have missed out. So you take a bit of that with a grain of salt. And people who are going to have in the future the high voltage transmission lines across their land will be paid for that at the rate of $10,000 per kilometre. So, look, the money from all the planning agreements, voluntary planning agreements, really does need to be for the whole LGA, not for part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Probably just echoing Councillor Black's comments and Councillor Marnes there as well, that there's a significant number of renewable energy projects that are going to be constructed around that Wellington area. It will get to a point that there is a substantial amount of money, and the only thing that would be left to do is pave the roads in gold. And I think at that point in time we start looking a little bit broader. So I guess it'll get to that point, and and again, staff, they've done a fantastic job in negotiating these VPAs. So we without any assistance from state or federal, so they've got a lot more work to do with a lot more to come. So and I think this council will have that opportunity, I think, looking at those future VPAs and dictate to a point where we would like to see that money spent.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any further discussion or debate? Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to sort of touch on, like, the debate's been really, I suppose, rich, and I hear all of the sides of the story and coming through. I think what, for me, the most thing that I'm thinking is that all of those small villages around in the Dubbo LGA, and the proposal that they could be involved in a public art strategy where there's a theme or something, I actually really like that idea. And the whether it's, you know, I absolutely would support if it was a First Nations type art, but also other types of art as well. So I think it would be another thing that would help the Dubbo LGA be put on the map around the public art strategy, having these types of things out there, and for people going through the villages and seeing that. I think that would be quite, not just you know, fantastic, but fun for travellers and grey nomads and whoever goes and sees those things. I just think it's great that, you know, Squadron's offering it, and I actually support the fact of having villages being a big part of the public art strategy, and also ensuring that our artists come from the LGA, not outside. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Further discussion or debate, councillors? No, and we've just lost Councillor Wright, have we? No, there we go. That's fine. So, Councillor Ivey, you have, if there's no further discussion or debate, councillors, Councillor Ivey, you have right of reply to anything said in this debate on these first 4 points.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, look, just a couple of points on Councillor Wright's comment about, you know, we'll end up with the situation of where we've got to line the roads with gold. Wouldn't that be fantastic? If that happens, the VPAs do have a clause in there to say, when that happens, no, you spend it, you spend it in a wider area. So there will be a vetting process. We will never get to that situation. And look, as much as I like it, as much as I like to think we would, if you go and drive around that Wellington area now and look at what the development is and what's going on and what the disruption to the countryside has been, and we have got some money from the Badangra wind farm. That is the only money that Wellington has got from that, what has gone on in the last 5 or 10 years. You know, it is not a great windfall by any means. And the motion which I've put up and hopefully will endorse to try to claw back some of the funding that the three solar farms covering thousands of acres of prime agricultural land, and the Wellington community, the LGA, the Dubbo Regional Council LGA, has got nothing out of it. So the day we get to the stage of having to worry about where we're going to spend the money, that will be fantastic, but it will not be spent on lining the roads with gold. And Councillor Black's comment too about how, oh, come on, the farmers, they get paid. And look, for how many years now I've been saying, with this move to renewables, the government is getting plenty of free kicks. They're solving the environmental problem. They're meeting net zero 2000. The proponents are getting a fantastic deal out of it. They're selling power for a lot of money. The suppliers are getting a lot of money out of it. That's fantastic. The backpackers are getting very well paid. The landowners, I agree, the landowners are getting, a ridiculous amount of money. The people that are missing out on this are the community. The community is getting, to date, except through the Badangra Wind Farm, the community is getting nothing. And the sooner we realise that and say, look, something should be done about it, the better. You can't say, there's thousands of prime agricultural land being taken out of there. Yes, the landowners got paid very well for it, but they're no longer buying fertiliser, fuel. They're not employing anyone. They're not selling livestock. And so the loss to the community is quite significant. And this community benefit funding that we're talking about is an attempt to try to fill that missing gap that all the other people involved in it and organisations involved in it are doing very well out of it. The people that are missing out is the community. And again, I echo the comments. Really congratulations to the staff, because I think they've done a fantastic job in really starting to try to claw back some of the benefits that the community deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Now, I will ask for a vote. I'll just note that Councillor Burns has just left the room. So all those in favour, councillors, so this is points, sorry, just to remind everyone, this is points 1 to 4 from our original papers. So all those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Okay, thank you, councillors. Next item is CCL 24/120, report of the Culture and Community Committee meeting. Thank you, Councillor Goff.
I move the motion, save and accept CC 24/25.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Second that. Councillor Etheridge, thank you. Councillor Goff, do you wish to speak to any part of that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any discussion or debate, councillors, with the rest of the committee meeting? I've got your declaration, Councillor Chowdhury. The declaration, if you want to do that now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will declare non-pecuniary less than significant on agenda item on CCC 24/26 and CCC 24/28. I was part of the Oriscon committee member before, but not any longer, so I'm going to stay in the room. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate on any other parts of the meeting, councillors? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Now, Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to move your alternative motion for CCC 24/25?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I will bring the alternative motion number 1. That as the part of CCC 24/25 concept of Dabo Indoor Aquatic Centre. So alternative motion is number 1, that as the part of the draft budget process, an amount of $30,000 be allocated, be funded the review of the 2017 Indoor Aquatic Centre concept and referred as a figure 1 in the report of CCC 24/25. Number 2, that the CEO investigate option to reduce the construction cost of the figure 1 concept and report back to the estimated annual operating cost. Number 3, that the CEO also investigate the cost of associate with enclosing the existing 50-metre pool. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Have someone second that? Second, Councillor Black. Councillor Chowdhury, you should speak to your motion.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note that report from the Director, Community, Culture and Places, background to previous work done outlining concept options for an indoor aquatic center in Dabo. I note 4 concepts were outlined ranging from estimated construction cost 20 million to around 70 million. The report stated that the initial concept referred in 2017 and referred as a report as figure 1 has an estimated construction cost of $20 million. It is designed to fit mostly within the existing footprint of Dabo Aquatic Leisure Center and has a range of features as listed in the report. I would like to consider what options are available to reduce that estimated construction cost of the figure 1 concept while we providing the quality facility to the community. Also, I'd like to also mention this is long-term indoor pool demand from the community, and we can see surrounding doubles. We already get a few other we federal funded got $20 million few areas already received. So we really need to see a concept ready to done, ready brought back to the council and is public to the community. So if we have a business case ready, then when this funding started, then we can go and are looking for the grant, because at this moment we don't have nothing to get the fund or anything. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Other speakers? Councillor Black.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Chowdhury's got a very good motion there. I noticed that Moree was getting $10 million off the federal government the other day for their swimming pool complex to be rebuilt, and I was looking at a few other places that, again, somewhere else, can't remember where, up north there, got $6.6 million to do a new pool that was, previous one's 100 years old. We need to be ready to go when the funding opportunities arise. We need to do something. Looking through that report, that big $70 million wave pool type thing is just never going to happen. Let's face facts. We need to look at something that's achievable. The Inverell pool, I was sent Councillor Chowdhury some pictures of that the other day, which is half covered over, and they just section it off with a bit of a boom during winter time and drop down the sides and heat half the pool. So you've got a 25 by 25 metre indoor heated pool. So anything we could look at along those sort of lines to actually make this a reality in all of our lifetimes would be very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Other discussion or debate, councillors? No. Councillor Chowdhury, you have a right of reply to anything Councillor Black said.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So I have that before us. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried.
Councillor Wright. Just
Yeah, so Councillor Wright, I had you in favour. Councillor Wright? Yep. And I was in favour. Yep. So you got numbers, Ms. Rouse? Yep. Thank you, councillors. Now, next. No, that's right. 3 against. Okay, next item on the agenda, CCL 24/121, report of the Corporate Services Committee. Councillor Chowdhury, so moved. Seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to speak to that committee?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Black.
Thank you. I was up in where we had the bit in here about the crime, what we can do about crime, and writing to the Attorney General for Justice Reinvestment things. I was talking to someone in town the other day, and they've got some plans to do some stuff around youth crime. So it'll be great when they get contacted by council. So that'll be fantastic. But I also saw a place up in Gunnedah the other day where they have like a youth drop-in centre, and kids can go in there and play games and use the computers and those sort of things. So and they were saying how successful that was in engaging kids and keeping them out of trouble and off the streets. So hopefully something can come out of that similar in Dubbo with some of that federal government money for justice reinvestment initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Anything else, councillors? Being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. CCL 24/122, report of the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee meeting. Have that moved. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Wells. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Chowdhury, you should.
Thank you.
Okay. Discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/123, report of the Financial Performance Committee meeting, 14th of May. So I move that, please. Thank you, Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, we're on 1, 2, 3, Financial Performance Committee. Not on that one. Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll leave that one be, but I'll come back to you in a couple more items' time.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/124, report of the Floodplain Management Committee. Can I have someone move that way, please? Thank you. Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Burns. Discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just to comment on that one, I did chair that particular committee meeting. This is just for the Wellington flood study, just to get the technical brief endorsed for quotation. Speaking to staff at that particular meeting, obviously this is a conversation that's been bounced around Wellington with some of the issues with flooding, especially down around that cemetery. This will be a part of that. This is a big report that's expected to take a rather long time. There's a lot of moving parts when we start talking about the Macquarie, the Bell, and Burrendong Dam as well. So it's a significant piece of work, but nevertheless, community will be glad to see that that's moving along at least to getting to quotation before it gets into the nitty-gritty of preparing the actual flood study itself.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/125, notice of motion from Councillor Ivey. Councillor Ivey, you should move that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'll move the motion.
Yep. Can I have someone second that, please? Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Ivey, do you wish to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think most of the issues have already been canvassed tonight. As I say, in the Wellington area, there have been the three major solar farms at Suntop, just out of Wellington, and then the Wellington North solar farms, covering, as I say, thousands of acres of land. The approval process for them was way back in the distant past, before solar farms even had the inkling that they might be expected to make a voluntary planning agreement or sign a voluntary planning agreement. There was a voluntary planning agreement regime introduced for wind farms, and that's why through the Badangra wind farm does make a contribution to the Wellington and broader communities. No such contributions from the solar farms, although they definitely have much bigger impact on the local community, both in terms of taking up and agricultural land, and also just in the visual impacts. Anyone who's driven along the road from Wellington to Mudgee now, with acres and acres of solar farms and transmission lines going hither and thither, it really is, it has changed that whole landscape. And again, you walk down the main street of Wellington and ask people about it, and you'll get, I would suggest, still about 50% of people who were given the opportunity would say, thanks very much, we don't want those solar farms. So, but if you said to them, but look, it's part of progress, it's getting renewable energy, and also the community has now, via this whole process, getting some money, then I think a lot of people would change their mind, that, okay, yes, there is an offset there, that that maybe the whole development is worthwhile. So this motion is just designed to ask, or to give, some benefits, some ammunition to the staff who are having these discussions with the proponents about retrospectively making some community benefit contribution. And this letter coming from the Mayor, I presume, or the CEO, whoever is empowered to write that, would just add a little bit more assistance to staff in trying to negotiate some retrospective deal from these proponents. Look, I don't know what sort of percentage chance of success we're likely to have, but it's the age-old thing. Unless you try, you never know. So that's why I would support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Other discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Black.
Just a question for you. Have there been any discussions so far with the Wello-based solar farm owners? And if so, is there any indication on how that's gone so far? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Black. To you, CEO.
Mr. Jennings, if I could.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we've had two conversations in the last month with the new owners of the Suntop Solar Farm, and look, yeah, it's been positive so far. Nothing to report, but yeah, we are continuing that discussion. We've got another meeting on this coming Monday as well. In respect of BP or Light Source BP, there has been some discussions around that component as well, and obviously there we have some discussions ongoing around the former soil conservation site up there at Wellington North as well.
Thank you, Mr Jennings. Any further, Councillor Black?
Oh, just to say thank you very much for that, and thanks to the staff for their work so far on that.
Anything further, councillors? Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now I'll support this motion, and really thanks to Councillor Ivy bring this motion. And I'm pretty confident. Like our staff have a very good experience, and they can bring some VP from this three big solar farm, because they are using big land, and then they don't have any contribution, and it's a shame. Like a state and federal government have not put any sort of a legislation around this contribution. So I really thanks Councillor Ivy to bringing that, and I'll fully support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Anything further, councillors? Any further discussion or debate? Councillor Ivy, you probably don't need a right of reply. There wasn't much.
No, thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Mayor.
right. Okay, we have the motion before us there, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/126, March 2024 Quarterly Budget Review Statement. So move Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak to that?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Actually, a couple of things I just wanted to point out, but I also did have a question as well. Actually, I might ask the question first, actually. Might be smarter. Just with regards to depreciation, there's a pie graph in that particular report on page 108, and it really surprised me when I read it that we've got a substantial amount of depreciation. In fact, so much depreciation that a third of council revenue is allocated towards an expense of depreciation. And it does seem like a significant amount. I know council does have a lot of assets, but maybe I might just get a bit of explanation with respect to that. Is that in line with other councils? Are we dictated to by our auditors how much we need to allocate for depreciation? Maybe if I can have that question maybe answered.
Thank you, Councillor Wright, and probably the other part of that question as well to be answered from our staff is just the discussion earlier with the sale yards in terms of depreciation. Some people don't understand how we've got to treat depreciation a little bit differently to the private sector. So that may be wrapped into that answer as well. Mr. CEO, through you to Ms. Bassingthwaighte.
So yes, depreciation is something I could speak for hours on. It's important accounting tool. So council does have a really large or high depreciation. It is an annual audit that is done, so it is in line with the audit, the accounting standards. We do have planned meetings with the audit office to discuss just to your point on other councils, just to understand how councils endorsed depreciation methodologies, or how our asset revaluations affect on various asset classes, just that depreciation rate. So we do use depreciation and to support, and it is mainly supported around the for example, the livestock markets. We have been talking and investigating that a lot. So the asset base for the depreciation is $30 million. Its depreciation bill is $1.7 million. So if that depreciation is correct and fair, then that asset's going to depreciate to nothing in less than 20 years. So we do use that depreciation rate to justify fees and charges when we can, so therefore generating enough income for that asset renewal. So, but on the flip side, we do have the large road asset that is depreciating, so we're using it for expected backlog. So it's just, we'll have those discussions just to test exactly what our methodologies are with the audit office and with our audit manager and audit director.
Thank you, Ms. Bassingthwaighte. Anything you want to add, Mr. CEO?
Just that whilst the team are investigating it, it is approved through the New South Wales Audit Office in doing our financial accounts. So there is logic to it and it is accepted, but I guess the team are pointing out that they want to test that comfort and also find out how we compare to other local governments in the sector.
Thank you. Does that answer that first question, Councillor Wright?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And And look, obviously, it's financially responsible to allow for depreciation and for replacement renewal of those assets when they're due. But it just seemed like a big number. So just following from that, just a couple of things I wanted to point out. Actually, I noticed that on page 104 is the consolidated operating result. I see that bottom right-hand corner figure shows it in the black, and that's always a pretty positive position to be in. I understand it's subject to that financial assistance grant, which hopefully we'll hear about soon. And the other one I was going to point out, and I think Ms. Bathingway did make mention of that, was that Sale Yards one as well, which obviously that's running at a cash profit of about $829,000, which is fantastic. But again, we have a substantial amount of depreciation in on that, which must be factored in, and we run at a loss of a bit over $500,000. So, and that's just our year-to-date figure. So, with a projected annual figure of getting closer to $1 million. So, it's obviously an important part of it. I'm curious to see how some discussions maybe with the audit office might go with respect to reducing that depreciation expense. That'll make our figures look a little bit bigger or a bit better. But nevertheless, the overall position I was pretty happy with. So, well done to staff there.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Further questions, councillors? Discussion? No? Okay, thank you, councillors. I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/127, naming of a private thoroughfare. Can I have someone move that way, please? Thank you, Councillor Wells, seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Chowdhury, you should make a declaration.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will declare like a CCL 24/127 non-pecuniary less than significant. I live in a waterway crescent Dubbo. However, this motion only naming the road, no financial implementation there. So I'm staying in the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Now, Councillor Wells, do you wish to speak to that motion?
Oh, just briefly, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Look, I don't have any problems with it. Happy to support it. Looking at the recommendation to change the name, rebranded as Magenta Circuit, I have no problems with that, so happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/128, the delegation of authority update, Infrastructure Planning Environment Committee. Can I have someone move that way, please? Councillor Burns, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Burns, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Discussion or debate? Councillor Ivey?
Perhaps just a question, Mr. Mayor. I'm a great believer in if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't see that the case was really made out to say that we need to change it. Could I have, I don't know, through you, Mr. Mayor, through the CEO, could I have some explanation as to why we need to change what I thought in this very short term of council that I've been on seems to work pretty well?
I'll give one bit before I hand over to the CEO, because I did ask Mr. Wallace just for some numbers there to see how often this might be relevant. So in the last 12 months, we've had 650 DAs that have been processed by council. 7 of those have been referred to council, so obviously not a lot, and they've all gone to council meetings, obviously. And I also did wonder how many where this might have been applicable. In other words, how many of those might have been referred to the Land Environment Court under a deemed refusal, and at this stage, none out of those 7 or none of those 650 have been referred to Land Environment Court as a deemed refusal. So I suppose I was along the same lines as you, that I didn't see a need for this to go to committees. Council seemed to be a very effective way of doing that, but I'm happy to go to Mr. CEO, to go Mr. Quigley, to give any further information in addition to that.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I suppose the issue is, yes, you're right, we don't send a lot to council, but it is an efficiency saving. We miss a cycle, we can be waiting 3, 4, 5 weeks to get to the next council meeting, and giving you all on the committee the arguments there for some savings and efficiency. I suppose also if there are refusals, and they are, some applicants are seeking to take us to court, it does provide the court with council's more definitive answer if we've determined something prior to getting to the court.
And just briefly, councillors, I've made a mistake on that recommendation. because the recommendation is that we determine whether to grant delegation. So that's my apology. I shouldn't have accepted Councillor Burns moving that, because we need to make a decision on which way to go. So we shouldn't just move the recommendation out of the papers. That's my mistake. I apologise. So I need someone to move a resolution to either grant delegation to the IP and E committee, or to, I suppose I'd accept a motion that says leave it in its current state. So, Councillor Mann?
I'd be happy to move a motion that we give delegation of authority to the committee.
So the resolution is effectively stealing the words from the papers, that council grant, so basically determine whether, remove those two words, the council grant delegation to the Infrastructure Planning Environment Committee meeting to turn all development applications. So point 2 is just a notation really. So you're happy with that, Councillor Mann? The council grant delegation to the Infrastructure Planning Environment Committee meeting as per the resolution, just removing those couple of extra words?
Yes.
Yep, that's
Yes,
fine.
sorry.
So thank you. So that's my apologies for that mistake there. So Councillor Mann has moved that. Can I have someone second that, please? Councillor Black. So now I'll ask Councillor Mann. So we reset again, councillors. Ask Councillor Mann
Start
to speak.
again.
That's right. Speak to the motion, and then invite speakers. So Councillor Ivey, well, I'm going to ignore everything you've said before. So if you want to speak again, that's fine. Councillor Mann.
Look, I'm all about productivity. I know the numbers say that it doesn't happen very often, but we consistently get feedback about the processing of DAs, etc. I think the point Mr. Quigley made is that we're all sitting on that committee anyway, so we're in the room. We're not missing out on any input. So to me, I think I see this as a good step forward for productivity in the process.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Have any other speakers? Councillor Black.
Thank you. Yes, this is more about what's coming in the future. The report talks about possible legal action, Land Environment Court, etc., etc. And it, as Councillor Mann said, it will be more efficient. But looking at what's happened over the last 2.5 years, I think that we probably should have gone with delegated authority to committees from the start, or just had 2 council meetings a month, rather than have committees as a practice run for what we're going to do in a fortnight. Not very efficient whatsoever. But when you've got 10 councillors and whoever's in the chair with a casting vote, that probably had more to do with delegated authority or not to committees. So I think we should go with this, because like I said, it's not really about what's happened in the past. It's more about, the report makes it pretty clear about what they feel is coming with possible legal action in the future and deemed refusals. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Chowdhury, then Councillor Wright, and I think then Councillor Ivey. So Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will vote against this one, because I think I'll support if this DA comes to the council meeting and we have discussion and debate here, and then we pass whatever the outcomes come. So I'll vote against this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Wright.
It was just a couple of questions, Mr. Mayor. If you could remind me again, over this term of council, how many times has this happened, whereby this council has had to make a decision on a DA? It was referred to council. Can you tell me that again?
I haven't got the term of council, sorry. I've only got the last 12 months. Mr. Wallace gave me that when I sent him an email the other day. So we've had 650 DAs processed by this council. 7 of those DAs in the last 12 months have come to council, and none have needed to be, I suppose, on a time frame that gets referred as a deemed refusal, that have ended up in the Land Environment Court.
Okay, so further to that, so second question is then, if we get to the point where there is an urgent one, which by the sound of it's pretty rare, what would the process be? Does council then have an opportunity to just to call an urgent council meeting to determine that? And is that something that's been done in the past?
Certainly, you could call an extraordinary meeting. There's a process to call an extraordinary meeting. And in the dark, distant past, I'm sure we've had ones where a DA was required to be processed urgently. It's probably not that common, but again, as you see from that, it's only just over one every 2 months would come to council anyway. But yes, you certainly got that option to do that. And as we found with the Dream Festival, we can also at a council meeting do a one-off vote to give a council committee delegated authority as well. So if there was one coming up and our staff knew about it and it couldn't quite make it to a council meeting, they could ask for us to give delegated authority to the next committee meeting because there was one that was coming up that needed that extra 2-week time frame.
Thank you. Yeah, it does. Thank you. And look, on the basis of that and the time, the number of times that this actually occurs, I'm not sure if I can support it. I'm happy to leave it as it is. I just I can understand the thoughts around efficiencies and those sort of things, but for the amount of times that it happens, it's very, very rare. And I think we've got alternative means to deal with it if it does happen. So,
thank you, Councillor Wright, and then I had Councillor Ivey.
No, look, I think Councillor Wright said most of what I was going to say, so I'd agree with. I just endorse his comments.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Further discussion or debate from anyone? And again, just before I go to Councillor Mann for a right of reply, I suppose I said my points earlier in that I do like the idea that council resolutions are made at council meetings. We have the ability to award tenders at committees, and that seems appropriate because they're not something that we're discussing with the public, lobbied by the public, or is out there for public discussion. A tender is very much something that's done confidentially, but everything else, I do like the idea that council resolutions are made at council meetings and committees give people the chance to see what's happening before it does come. As Councillor Black said, a trial run, and I think that's a great way to do it, to make sure the public is informed, does understand what's happening, and they get that trial run to hear our thoughts, and we get further feedback from the community. So that's my few comments on that. Councillor Mann, you had a right of reply to anything said in the debate.
Not really. There's a reason the staff asked for this. I like to support if they see an opportunity to do something better, and this is possibly one of those opportunities.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. So just briefly there before I ask for a vote on that, so a vote in favour of this would grant the delegation. If we vote against this, there would be no resolution there, and I don't need a replacement resolution because no resolution would mean nothing changes. So it would be a blank outcome, and you're happy with that, Ms. CEO. So basically nothing changes as such. So all those in favour of the current recommendation? All those against? Declare it lost. So you've got that, Ms. Rouse? 5-5. Yeah. That's right, Ms. Rouse?
Could you just have those hands again, just for
So
the staff, sorry, so please don't change.
In favour again, sorry, just for the staff? Yeah, Vicky's up, yep. And then against? Yep. Oh, yeah. So you're right, Ms. Rouse? Okay, thank you, councillors. Next item on the agenda is CCL 24/129. Have someone move that way, please. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Wright. Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to speak to this?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any discussion or debate, councillors? And I just want to check. Yeah, that's fine. Any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Black.
Thank you. I'm going to vote against this. I know it's only a small amount, but given that we didn't maximise the grant opportunity from the federal government, which has come at a cost of $2.2 million plus another $600,000 in foregone interest, I don't think it'd be right to be tapping the ratepayers for more money. Even though it's not great, I think that we probably should do our bit to chip in and try and pay back some of that money that we could have got for nothing, but we didn't. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any further discussion or debate? Councillor Marr, sorry, I've got Councillor Marr and then Councillor Wright.
Sorry, just a comment more so, like we talk about conflicts of interest. Every year this comes up, and it's probably the biggest conflict of interest you've ever seen in your life. I'll vote in favour of it, more so because we're coming up to an election. That little bit of an increase, I think it's only 3% or something like that. I'd love to see the best possible people be able to come and do the job as a councillor. And sometimes it's going to suit some people more than others to be able to give up the amount of time they need to. And if this little bit of increase will help them make the decision to put their hand up and come and do their civic duties, I would encourage it. It's not a big difference to what we're getting paid currently, but I think, again, I think the process stinks that we shouldn't have to vote on this. They should just tell us the amount that it is. That's it. Thank you.
Yes, can you imagine employees in a business going in a vote on their wage increase? It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm going to echo Councillor Marn's thoughts on this. It really eats at me. We have conflict of interest drilled into us from day one in this role, and it's one of the biggest conflicts that I see. I'm just wanting to make reference though to a letter that was sent from the Mayor's office in December to the Local Government Remuneration Tribunal, and it was again addressing this particular issue and endorsing that maybe this decision is taken out of the hands of councillors and put back with the Local Government Remuneration Tribunal to determine it, not council. So council's taken a genuine interest in trying to push this responsibility somewhere else, so that it doesn't have that conflicting view. And certainly I can see community's thoughts. But again, I would hope if the remuneration is fair and it brings some people out of the woodwork to want to stand for council and remunerate them for their time or reimburse them for the time they spend in the role, then I can see that as a good thing. So.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Further discussion or debate, councillors? And just for the record, for people listening that might not have the business papers in front of them, the increase would take the councillor fee to $27,050. And I personally think that's not a lot of money for councillors who are charged with the responsibility of a $3 billion asset, a $180 million annual budget, at least this year, predicted budget for the council. A lot of responsibility, and we only saw tonight with the number of people that were in the gallery who are relying on councillors to make a good decision for the betterment of the community. So there's a lot of pressure on councillors to make sure they get decisions right. I don't think $27,050 is an excessive wage by any stretch of the imagination to be a councillor. So for anyone out there listening thinking that councillors are putting our wages up to some ridiculous level, that's the total sum amount, $27,050 that councillors will be paid if this increase goes through. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Showery, you have a right of reply if you wish to use it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now I'll echo with my fellow councillor. Every year, this time is really hard for us and big conflict for us, rising our, because it put us in front of the community saying we're rising our money. But the thing is, it's a small portion of them, like a 3% is not a big money. But it's really hard us to vote for or vote against. So it's really hard for putting us in that hard situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Showery. Put that now. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Okay, just check, Ms. Rouse, you got those three? Yep, thank you. Okay, councillors, the next item, CCL 24/130, execution of the Section 88B instrument. So can I have someone move that way, please? Thank you, Councillor Showery, seconded by Councillor Wright. Any discussion or debate, councillors? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item is CCL 24/131. Can someone move that way, please? Thank you, Councillor Etheridge, seconded by Councillor Burns. Councillor Etheridge, do you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any discussion or debate, councillors? Councillor Wells, and then Councillor Wright.
You sounded surprised that I put my hand up.
Well, I was almost about to call it, and then your hand just snuck up.
No, I just wanted to say that the presentation we heard from the council staff the other week was really interesting. Hearing that's higher numbers than we've heard before is good to see. Still probably not a lot in terms of what we'd hoped, but still it's good. So very interesting report and statistics. So great to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it certainly was. There were some really interesting insights that come through that. But the question I just had maybe for one of the staff was the fact that this is the Community Insights phone survey. There was a significant number of community members who gave their input online. Maybe they might just be able to explain to them when councillors and even community might see the results of that part of the survey and maybe why they're not included in this part of the survey.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Through CEO to Ms. Coomer.
Thank you. As referred to in the report, yes, in the late March and the month of April, there was the open survey for community to provide their input, and we had an incredible response of over 730 community members provided that input. So as a result, there was a lot of open-ended questions and input data that the Micromets research company was required to go through, so that information wasn't available for the cutoff for this meeting. However, we were really keen to get the statistically valid data up to council. So what will be happening is in the corporate committee meeting in June, you will be again receiving the statistically valid survey data along with the open-end survey data, and Micromex Research will come and present at the committee's meeting to provide their insert, their expert advice, and also enable more discussion in the chamber and questions if needed.
Thank you, Ms Coomer. Councillor Wright, anything further from that?
No, thank you very much. That was very thorough, Ms. Coomer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? Okay, I'll put that, councillors. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Next item, CCL 24/132, question on notice from Councillor Black. Would you like to move that, Councillor Black? So moved. Someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Black, do you wish to speak to that?
Just very briefly, I asked this question because it had come to my attention that this Mr. Stephen Rosewell had a meeting with, it said, it was in the mayor's mayoral appointments and meetings from June 2022. So it was the mayor, Councillor Wright, the CEO, and a whole suite of directors. And I was wondering what that was. Anyway, I got some info off this Mr. Stephen Rosewell, and it turns out that he had initiated the meeting after seeing the 3D printed housing motion from May 2022. And I was wondering what on earth is going on there. So I rang Mr. Rosewell, and he told me that he'd actually been in doing 3D printing for ages, and some of the information that he gave me or told me that he had said at this meeting, it's like, wow, I wish I knew that before we'd agreed to the 3D toilet printing escapade. And this Stephen Rosewell said that he had been doing this 3D printing for ages, and that he'd told people at this meeting that he said that he had said straight up, don't do it. 3D printing, this was related to houses, but it also applies to our 3D printed toilet structure. And said, he quote unquote here, that it was a stupid idea, don't do it. He's yet to see it done cheaper. He's yet to see it proven. He says the people making the dollars are the people selling the machines. And he gave me an example of that 20 to 30% of the cost of a building is in the walls. And if you save half the price by 3D printing, then you're saving 10% of the total cost of the building. So that applied across to the 3D printed toilet. And it's like, wow, I wish I knew that back then. So that was a very interesting conversation, and would have been great to have known that prior to voting on the 3D toilet. Thanks.
So just a reference, Councillor Black, the answers given by our staff in that question on notice don't match the phone call recollection of Mr. Rosewell that you had with Mr. Rosewell. So again, it says in the questions on notice that the notes there were from 2 years ago, and so the staff are saying that significant time has elapsed and the answers are based largely on recollection, but certainly there wasn't any of that in my recollection, and certainly there's no reference to that in the notes in terms of questions on notice. Not sure if Councillor Wright wants to chime in further, or Mr. CEO, based on recollection of that memory of that meeting, but again, it was 2 years ago, but there was certainly nothing along those lines, and he might have had a discussion recently that changed his opinion on it, but certainly wasn't the recollection from then. You don't have to, Councillor Wright, but you can add anything further to that if you'd like to.
Yeah, sure, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I'm looking at the original message that Mr. Rosewell sent to me back on the 27th of May 2022, where he spooked of his 3D printing and his design work, and was keen to see if he could help council in the subject of large-scale 3D printing. They were working, the design they were working with was a bit more practical and economical than the standard process being used around the world. He passed on his phone number and email to me, proudly sent me some photos of what he'd been working on, and in those messages, and nor in that meeting do I recall anything from Mr. Rosewell either that reflects the conversation that he had with Councillor Black. And maybe if Councillor Black may have saved us a whole lot of time here and reached out, I probably could have provided all this information to him, because I've still got it saved in a messenger and also in my emails that I'd sent to one of the council staff to organise the meeting itself. So for any fellow councillors out there looking for any information about some of these, any meeting that any of us might have attended, I'm more than happy to furnish you with any information. Nothing to hide here. So please feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Nothing you want to add, Mr. CEO? You've made your comments in the papers. Yeah. So anyway, Councillor Black, I'm not sure what Mr. Rosewell's comments were based on, but it certainly wasn't anything in that conversation that we had. Anything further? Any discussion or debate further on that, councillors? No, there being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Okay, next item is CCL 24/133. Question on notice from Councillor Black. Councillor Black? Oh, sorry, I was waiting for you to say moved. So you moved. Okay, someone second that, please. Thank you, Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Black, you wish to speak to that?
Oh, just very quickly, thank you. I note there that the question has to do with any legal costs incurred by council about defamation actions or legal letters sent to anyone to do with possible defamation or claim defamation during this term of council. And there's about tick over $6,400 on trying to sort out the Dubbo Regional Council discussion group page on Facebook, and also $900 recently on legal letters sent to the Daily Liberal with regards to a story or series of stories run by the Liberal to do with the the sale and purchase of the block down on Boundary Road at Keswick Estate and the former Dubbo City Bowling Club. So it really looks like out of all that expense and sending letters and getting letters written and carrying on, that nothing much has come out of it. I've been told that a retraction was demanded from the Liberal and they haven't done one, so there's $900 gone there. And people said to me about the discussion group page that they got letters, but the discussion group page is still going, so it's a bit of a shame. I know that we have to protect the staff, but we don't have to necessarily send legal letters about the organisation, because you can't defame a company, as I understand it. So it'd be good to see less threatening letters going out and defo letters to people in the community. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Black. And obviously it is a requirement of the CEO to make sure that he does protect his staff, because staff aren't really able to go out and defend themselves in the public arena. I'm not sure if you want to make any further comment, Mr. CEO.
Yeah, just to be clear, the issue, one of the issues that the greater expense was related to a false and allegation of a cover-up of contamination in the public water. And I take that very seriously on two levels. It undermines confidence in public water utility, and so that's very unacceptable from my perspective. I'm very open to, as hopefully councils would all know, if we get it wrong, I will own that. When someone's putting forward and publishing a conspiracy theory, that's not acceptable. And then also to allege that myself and other staff purposely hid that cover-up, which doesn't exist, I hasten to add, of contamination of public water supply. We have a strong working relationship with public health, etc. So that post was actually removed, an apology was issued to myself. So that, just to be clear on what the actual issue is. The other one with the Daily Liberal and the Dubbo RSL it was not about the story itself. It was about that, and you may recall that the direct allegation was that staff purposely withheld information, and council was not given an opportunity to have that allegation put directly to us. And certainly I will defend staff if such a broad sweeping statement with no opportunity to rebut is published. And so that's why I took that very seriously. Interestingly, no such comment has been put forward by the Daily Liberal or the WRSL since we sent those letters. So I do think it's important to have respectful debate, but when people cast aspersions against broad brush of staff cop a lot of criticism, and some of it, quite frankly, is very irrational. And to put forward libelous statements that are so wrong and malicious in intent, particularly the first example I was talking about, I'm quite comfortable I've done the right thing in that regard.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Any further discussion or debate, councillors? No. I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. Okay, move on to comments and matters of urgency, councillors. I'll start on my left. Councillor Mann.
Nothing from me, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Burns.
No, I think everything I've got to say has been said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burns. Councillor Black.
Just two very quick matters. I noticed, what was it, the 10th of this month, there was a story in ABC News Online to do with an incident that occurred at Minakamo on the Sister City Delegation Exchange type activity that occurred recently. And that was a bit of a shock to me, actually. And then reading about what happened and some of the comments in some Japanese news, English language Japanese news websites, it's like, wow, how did we not know about that previously? Now, having seen the video of that, I think that hopefully that council is going to take some action to ensure the safety from harassment of delegates into the future and exchange students and chaperones into the future, to ensure that these very unsavoury harassment incidents don't happen again. We've got a duty of care, and anything that can be done to lessen the chance of that occurring, I think is incumbent upon us as council to take that action and make sure that we maintain the safety of people. And the second thing is the rescue squad building up on Cobra Street. There's some talk about the rescue squad moving to the VRA buildings out at the airport. And if that were to happen, as I mentioned previously, looking at the place up at Gunnedah where they have like a youth drop-in centre out of hours, that would be a fantastic spot for it to maybe get some state or federal funding, and it would really give youth somewhere to go and where they can engage in games, computers, whatever, to keep them out of trouble, and especially have it open during a night time, not just 9 to 5 during the day when they should all be at school. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of very quick, first thing, a really good news story. This week is National Volunteers Week. And one thing that I've really come to appreciate being on council and therefore being involved in some various functions around is just how fantastic volunteers are. I mean, so many organisations with so many fantastic volunteers, they really do make our community. And I really just, I reckon, I know they don't expect accolades, but by gosh, the people who volunteer their time for worthy causes really do deserve our great support. I came across a saying that said, volunteers don't get paid, not because they're worthless, but because they're priceless. And I think that really does sum up, and I think we do owe a real debt to volunteers who help make our community a whole lot better. The other comment I would just make is to, following on from Councillor Black's question on notice and the CEO's response about defending the staff and the position. I think that some of the things that are written and promulgated through the community are just ridiculous. And I think that the way the staff and particularly the CEO handles that and supports the staff and supports the standing of this council in the community should be commended. And if it costs us what, really, in the scheme of things, a few dollars in legal fees, then I think that's money very well spent. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just make a comment like that last community committee meeting, the Dream Festival has been abandoned. So it's a great loss for the double like a double LGA, because sure after that outcome, my fellow councillor have received a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails, but I really encourage the community members to come forward. This is not stopped. Just come forward with a new plan and next year. So, and whatever help need, I make sure my fellow councillor will support you in future, definitely. Another thing is I'll really thanks the council staff for the new resident night. Last night I attended. It was absolutely fantastic, and the arrangement was really good, and the people attended, and the stall holders are really engaged with this with the newcomer. So it's absolutely good to see the double this our region is welcoming the new residents. And I have seen mayor has mentioned talked to invited few of the people. They came from UK, some part of the African community, plus Pakistan, Bangladesh. So it's great to see a diversity come to our region, and they're embracing our culture and celebrating here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. One, I wanted to just, I suppose, echo Councillor Chowdhury's comments around the Dream Festival. It is disappointing, and I know that there was an EOI and we didn't get to a result, and it is what it is, but it is a loss for this community. If it was starting to grow too big, it's a shame. And so hopefully, leaning into what Councillor Chowdhury said, hopefully the community will think of other ways that we can bring that to fruition. Also wanted to just give it another, jab in terms of the Wiradjuri Aboriginal Cultural Tourism Centre. So just shout out that it's great that that's coming, and I don't know how long it's going to take. I know that we've been asked that question. I'm thinking it's about 2 years, so it's going to be great for this community, and I'm so excited to be able to work with council and community to get that off the ground. That's going to be a story that's going to go on for a long time. Also wanted to mention that the the Alcohol and Other Drug Facility Rehab Centre continues to have engagement with the architects and the local traditional custodians and other Aboriginal people around the cultural design, which is a government direction that any new buildings have to have on-country design, but then they'll be going out to communities soon, I think, to get additional input. So I'm pleased with how the design's coming and where it's going to be placed and how it will be hidden from the community over there. Still not happy with the location, but that they're making every effort for it to be unseen, I suppose, from the neighbourhood. I also wanted to just say one thing that probably other people will say this, but I just want to do a shout out to Natasha Kumar, who, this is her last council meeting with us, and I wanted to thank her for everything that she's done with us. A lot of work went into the Wiradjuri Aboriginal Cultural Tourism piece and how she got that off the ground, and I saw the pride in her face the other day with other staff members. She's been great asset for this council, and I wish her well in her journey going forward. And it's been an absolute pleasure working alongside you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Because we haven't heard about the livestock station much. So my initial plan this month was to put in a motion that council not proceed with any option to consider selling the Dubbo Regional Livestock Markets. After some advice from Office of Local Government, that motion would be deemed illegal, so I withdrew that. But I just want to make it my intent that I do not think we should sell it, and I believe most councillors are of that opinion. I've had a large number of conversations with livestock agents, stock and station agents, farmers, stock carriers, and feeling, I have a feeling that this is creating uncertainty, and all I wanted to do with that motion was to squash a conspiracy theory. I'm a little bit disappointed by one of the comments said in the gallery that we haven't been consulted or we are actually not understanding. I beg to differ. I've had so many conversations. I've had so many people come into my shop, so many people ring me, and I have to say, I want to say thank you for doing that in a respectful manner. 95% have been quite respectful in wanting to discuss and take up anyone's time to talk about their concerns, and I'm more than happy to do that at any time you need to. You can ring any councillor, you can email any councillor. The fact that you're sitting there saying that we're not getting the information, well, did you ring? So I'm disappointed with that comment. My intention next month will be to not sell the sale yards, and I'm just making that stand now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Etheridge.
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. And just a brief on councillors, you remember the last meeting we had was Councillor Wright. My apologies. I've done the same to Councillor Mann when he's been remote. Sorry. My apologies. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. It was only going to be two things, but I'll give it three. The first one was just following on from a comment of Councillor Black. There's some things you just have to put a little bit of trust in when people deal with certain situations. They don't need to be given any further oxygen than what they need. So sometimes we just need to step out and let trust that things are dealt with accordingly. So that's all I'll have to say about that. The other one was with respect to a good news story. Got invited along to St Lawrence's yesterday for National Simultaneous Story Time. It was a fantastic. I had to read in front of 200 odd kids yesterday. It was a little bit scary, but yeah, what a fantastic initiative, and I hope I get to be involved in that again next year. That was a good time. And the other one, which Councillor Wells touched on as well, Ms. Kumar, thank you very much for your contribution. I've had a lot of dealings with you in my previous role in the Chamber of Commerce as well, and it's always been great to have you around, and always good for a little bit of banter here and there as well. And good luck in your new role and your aspirations as a councillor, wherever you're moving to. I say that tongue in cheek, but no, thank you in all seriousness for all your contribution. It's been great working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. So sorry, where I was going was the last meeting we had was on the eve of Anzac Day, and thank you to all the involvement from all the councillors to go and participate in a number of Anzac ceremonies on Anzac Day. And we had a late finish at council. I think we finished just after 11 o'clock, but the reports I had back from various community members councillors were there and representing the community. And I think the community came along and absolutely supported Anzac Day and basically made sure that day will be remembered, and hopefully we'll never need to have other days like that in the future. Hopefully we all remember what that's all about. So that was, thank you to all the councillors in the community there. Clontarf had their employment forum today, and I think they had 9 different Clontarf academies at the employment forum today. Orange, Wellington, obviously Dubbo, out at Canamble, Bree, Burke, so a number of those there. And there were probably 30, maybe 25 to 30 different organisations there, partners there, to try and give some of these young boys some sort of idea of where they might go. But what I was really impressed with today was not just about long-term career prospects, but there are a number of companies there, supermarkets, for example, just trying to get some of the boys into part-time work while they're still at year 11 and 12. So that was a little bit of a new one. Most of the time I've seen those forums before, they've really been looking at their career prospects, but this had a really good combination of career and some part-time work. So great to see that as well. And the last one, while I'm on education, the Dubbo Regional Council scholarship that we give out to Charles Sturt University. Lily Erskine was the recipient of that the other day, so I was up there presenting that to her, as well as a number of other scholarship recipients. But it is great to see young people there, education here in Dubbo, and there's the graduation ceremony next week where people have obviously completed that through CSU, but having Charles Sturt University in Dubbo obviously adds to that overall educational or the educational prospects in Dubbo. So that was a fantastic thing to see as well. So now, councillors, under Section 10A of the Local Government Act, the next items being CSC 24/135 and 136 have been identified as likely to be discussed in a closed session of council. Can I have someone move into confidential session, please? Thank you, Councillor Burns, seconded by Councillor Goff. We've had no applications from members of the public to make their representations regarding whether the meeting should be closed to the public. There are no members of the gallery, so I won't ask for any comments from any members of the gallery. Any discussion or debate, councillors, about moving into confidential? There being none, I put that. All those in favour? Against? Declare that carried. At 8:17 p.m, we'll move into closed session, and then at the end of that, we'll come back and report to the community on what the outcomes of that closed session are. Thank you. Welcome back. Please refer to the following slides for motions from the closed session of council in relation to item CCL 24/135 154 Talbot Street, Dubbo. The motion was as on screen. That's right. And in relation to item CCL 24/136, proposed agreement to lease council-owned operational land, the resolution from council is as on screen. Okay. So there are no further items for consideration of the ordinary council meeting. I declare the meeting closed, the time being 8:37 p.m. Web stream has now been completed. Thank you for your attendance.